take the blue pill, you wake up in bed, you believe what you want to believe. You take the red pill, I'll show you just how far the rabbit hole goes. Welcome to Center of Light, all you matrix dwellers. That is my sleeping lucid dream enhancement program. Out-of-body experiences, soul experiences, speaking with your deceased loved ones. Amazing product called Dreamleaf. I love it. $25 a month. If you got a spare $25 a month and you like these kinds of things, there's no amount of money. You can't put a price tag on having conscious soul experiences. Welcome to Center of Light. Strap in all my brother and sister astronauts as we launch for inner space. Center of Light Radio, Center of Divine Unfoldment and Reinforcement. Radio for the soul and the transformation station. Tonight, welcome, my friends, to the Mystery Machine with mystery guests. I love this cat. One of my favorite. Mr. Brian D. Hardin is here. And we're going to be talking about health, success, whatever that means for you. Happiness. Happiness is a step towards ecstasy and bliss. But we're going to get there. A couple of adverts real quick before we bring my phenomenal Broham sandwich in. Mr. Brian D. Hardin, going to call him here shortly. November 13th, this is my working date. I think it's concrete. My course called PCP. We're going to do some drugs, y'all, some spiritual drugs. We're going to do some PCP, Power Connection Purpose. 6-week bust you wide open course. Online video form just like you see now. No one has access to the room but you. 4 models for alignment. I will grab you and throw you into the moving river, the conscious life stream, and you will have an immediate experience, I guarantee you. Question and answer throughout the course when we do the online course, but also know that during that 6 weeks, because it's the 6-week course, if you're near your computer and you have a question about something that's unfolding for you, something you want to share that's magical for you that just transpired, contact me. Send me a message for 6 weeks. Absolutely. I'm yours. It costs very little. You will not get this kind of teaching because I push on purpose, because I love you beyond measure. For the money I'm charging. But most important, what you need to give is all of yourself. Otherwise, I'll take your money, but you're wasting your time. You have to be willing to die to live. Are you willing to die to live? I do it every day. Guess what? Conscious or unconscious, we do die every day. So why not tomorrow, when you wake up, sign up for the course, leave me information here. Keith, I'm interested in the course. Send me a personal inbox. You can always email me at keithanthonyblanchard@gmail.com. July 31st, 2020. 30 years. 30 years of my life, culmination of my life. It's coming to the point of July 31st, 2020. With the release of Homecoming, see if I can get the right light. I want you to see the cover if you can. Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. Back cover. It's kind of a whitewash, so July 31st, 2020. Thank you, Gavin Lee Davies with John Hunt's Publishing. Support my work, my beautiful work. And in so doing, I will support you in every endeavor forever that you want to have happen in your heaven on earth experience. Let's see who is here in the room really quick. We're going to bring my bro, Mr. Brian, on. Debbie. Hi, Debbie. Brian's in the room, y'all. Check him out. Raggy. Kelly Curtis, Nicole. A whole bunch of you beautiful, sexy people. Mark Hillard. James. What's up, James? Indigo Spencer, my bro. Tracy, so forth, everyone. Just know I love you. I want to get Brian on. Brian, I am calling you now. Broham Sandwich.
There we go.
Brian, if you would, go ahead and extinguish your other speakers. I'm
Yeah,
about
they're,
to.
they're up.
Okay. You ready? Hold on tight, Brian. I got something for you.
Uh-oh. Hey, what's up? Yeah.
How you like me now?
Oh, that was fantastic. So years ago, I did a sock puppet show. It was 20 years ago for MTV with two friends of mine, and that's what that's about, Syphil and Ollie. And they were It was a fantastic time of my life. It was great.
Everyone, before Brian and I get into the ditch, I want to say at first when I met Brian, actually when he was lucky enough to meet me, it was very interview-like. The first 3 of our talks, and we decided to throw that model away. So Brian and I are hanging out in some pub, having a shot of tequila and a couple of beers, just doing what we do, kind of thing, broham sandwiches. And so you happen to be a group of people eavesdropping. So it's not interview style. Brian and I, just two guys who love what we do, and we want to spill some of our glee, our health, our happiness, our success, whatever that means for us, translated, passed on to you, what all that juicy, delicious, beautiful, divine, birthright stuff means. Brian, thank you for hanging out with me again, brother. What's
Thank
happening
you
in
so
your world,
much.
sir?
I'm posting. I'm sharing this on some of my feeds. So maybe we.
Bro, things are amazing. First of all, everyone in the room, I've been going through audio issue, computer issue. I just wiped my drive clean and had to redo it. So all that. Everything's sounding okay. Brian's mic okay, too loud, too soft. If everything's okay, just send me an exclamation point. Only 1 or 2 people. So once you see the exclamation point, no one else has to do it. So thank you. Brian, everything is wonderful, bro. You know, I love the idea that we're always put in check by God, spirit, higher self, soul, whatever, your great grandmother who passed, whatever you feel that's important to you. And we never know, which is the most beautiful journey, the twists and turns. We want what we want. Sometimes when we don't get what we want and we get something else, it's just so delicious. A turn of events recently happened. I homeschooled my son, since you asked how am I homeschooled my son a few years ago. He said, Dad, I want to go play with kids. I said, okay, buddy. You can go to public school, but you will not do that in inner city Memphis. He said, okay. I said, go live with your mom. And she said, sure, if she loved her son, and by all means, he wanted to. And a few things unfolded, and it was time to take him out. And so he's been living with me for 2 weeks, doing homeschooling, blistering through it 3 times that is required per day for the work. I said, bro, you keep that up, you'll be out of school in February. And so he and I doing what I and a 14-year-old son would do is eat a lot of pizza, watch a lot of movies, talk a lot of shit, kind of let him be his 14-year-old dad. I'm finding myself mouthy if he needs to, using words that grandma or mom might smack him in the face for, allowing him that space to be with his dad. And so I always tell him every day, Brian, 50 times a day, your father loves you. There's nothing you can do that would ever upset me. I'm always touching him. I'm holding his hand. We even have our late night Family Guy moment. And he's 14. He's as tall as me. And he comes and lays on my side. And I'm with my child. I'm connecting. A lot of people, which I really don't care, would see that as, well, Keith, aren't you sissifying him? Yes! I want him to understand the divine feminine that comes from his dad, that I'm not disconnected as to why I'm always touching this child. So I'm living I found myself, a part of myself again via my son. Thank you for asking. It felt good to deliver that to you.
Can you hear me fine?
I had you muted, so my bad. There
So
we go.
So we've got masculine and feminine in all of us, and it's not sissifying. If you think it's sissifying, you're actually just monocropping. Most of the people that I know that are extremely macho or extremely feminine aren't as balanced in their life of seeing things openly. You know, so I mean, I actually, growing up, I had a lot of friends that exhibited the opposite traits. Like for a while there, I was producing music with a lot of lesbian punk rock girls, and I found that they were the
I love it.
realest I could get. They were amazing because they told the truth. They acted right. They weren't prissy and needing. They were balanced. They could go that way and fix their hair and worry about their makeup or whatever. But for the most part, they were rooted in this balance of masculine and feminine. Same goes for guys. You've got to be in touch because most of the guys that are overly masculine, I would think, approach all of their life that way, to where they really can't make love to someone else or even themselves. They judge themselves, but they don't love themselves in that same way as you'll exhibit when you have a balance. And you can feel the other person as opposed to just you know dominating the other person. And so yeah, it's a balance. Yeah. Did I lose you?
No, sir, you did not. I loved your support. Thank you. It means a lot
Yeah.
to me. You and I, and oh, remind me to tell you about my son, California. Reminding me how Brian, when I'm next to this child, especially and Lincoln has a 4-year-old son. He says I do the same thing. Dude, congratulations! I'm happy for you. And I think the feminine aspect of him seeing through me, because I've changed his dirty diaper and all, and I'm always plugged into him, and I call his teacher and say, I am a plugged in father to this child's life. He needs something, tell me what he's doing knuckleheaded nonsense, or supporting he's doing something wonderful, I need to push in that direction. So I'm always there. So I'm giving him that feminine aspect, but the masculine part is I allow him to be 14. Son, I saw what you did. I know what you're doing. There's nothing you can tell me, nothing, that I don't already know. You trust that your dad is intelligent and intuitive? He said, yes. I said, there's no point of just not communicating with your father. Tell me your worst nightmares, the bad shit you're doing that you're having fun with. It's okay. Dialogue with me. So my main thing is I'm showing him that he can be his young 14-year-old puberty, masculine, unfolding cherub self. Do your
Yeah.
thing, bro. It's okay. Don't lie to your dad. Keep things age appropriate. Be 14. Do what you know 14 do. Don't try to be 15 and a half or 16. That's coming. Enjoy this.
Exactly.
So I'm feeding him both sides, both breads of the sandwich.
Well, and ultimately, at this point, they worry about the language. Suddenly, they use some words, the four-letter words or whatever, that were previously bad, and you have to just turn your head to it because you realize at some point that'll be doing it. And then what he can do is start discerning when it's appropriate to use those words and when it's not. And you know, that's helping him with discernment.
Sure, and I tell him, I said, son, when people say the word shit or shot, they're saying the same thing. It's to help alleviating their guilt by putting an asterisk where the I would be, or this guy who did work at my house, he does shitty work. Oh, you don't say that. Okay, this guy who did work at my house does shoddy work. It's implied, the mind already says the word shit, but we're going to hide it and disguise it and lie to ourselves and go in denial that I teach them that words have power. And life is not about this good, bad. It's not that at all. It's about whatever you do, white, gray to dark, It all has not only a consequence, it has an immediate consequence because of what it does to yourself. Because it's already manifested on some level, it may take a month for it to say, remember me. So I'm teaching him about responsibility, and everything is consequence.
All right, so what is he teaching you now? What have you learned?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The same thing. He is a mirror reflection to help me with my Catholicism and my recovery of Catholicism to understand the power of words and, seriously have a confirmation and go to confession to confess my sins or my darknesses to myself so I can see my own bullshit, my own folly. And so I'm teaching him that, look, if you're going to be human, whatever you do it all the way. Even if it's not a choice, even if it's a choice you're going to regret, do it all the way so that the karmic lesson will be so powerful that you're just done with it. Instead of stringing yourself along unconsciously. A divine mother by the name of Sai Ma says, whatever you do, no matter what it is, right, wrong, good, bad, in, out, up, down, do it passionately.
Yeah.
And so I'm teaching them the
Because you
power
learn
of
the
words.
bigger lesson from the bigger lesson, from the bigger catastrophe. You know, if every crisis is an
Yeah.
opportunity to learn. So fail big and you'll get it. You don't have to repeat it.
And what I'm seeing in him, Brian, as intelligence, his intelligence is starting to seep out. I know how intelligent he is, and it sounds like I'm biased and boasting. This child is truly intelligent. But the point is, when many people, I'm sure everyone knows as well, is that the level of someone's wit and humor is a tell for their level of intelligence. He will say things that is like, I know what you're doing. And you can see his intelligence come through. So to close this off with my son, which I can talk about all night, I am now, Brian, listen to this. I've been asking him for years, bro, do you want to play music? He goes, no, it's just not my thing. As of 4 days ago, he's pulled out my electric guitar and he says, Dad, come show me stuff. He wants to learn guitar. So, Brian, this is my successes since you've asked, sir. My new developments with me, and you asked the question, what is he teaching me? He's teaching me all those things I'm teaching him. That's why we're having that dialogue between he and I. What's happening in your world, Mr. Gold Record Producer, spiritual teacher, you're an inventor. Did you know that? You are an inventor. You, like me and others, invent yourself every day. How does it feel to patent your shit?
Well, it's actually a writer too. You end up writing each chapter of your life. And this past year, I had a plot twist that I wasn't expecting, and it led me to the worst year of my life up until now. And you had me on the radio or on this show about 2 months ago, and you asked me a question, and it reminded me that when I was 16, I had a near-death experience, and I got a whole series of messages, some really, really big ones. But one of the little messages I got was I had 40 years of play period, of goofing around until it was time to activate. Well, guess what? It's been 40 years since my near-death experience, and here I am. It's time to activate. It's time for me to actually show up and share some of my gifts, some of my joys, and some of my catastrophes too. And so anyway, that's where I'm at right now. And I'm actually, I've been doing it now for probably about 20 years, but it's about time that I show up bigger. And I realize that when I am bigger, I can help more people. And, not necessarily am I seeking money or fame. What I'm seeking is to be a bigger help to more people. And in the process, who knows what'll show up with it. So one of the things that as I was just setting up this little, the cameras and the lights, I stumbled across this bumper sticker that I had from several years ago, and I actually owned this website for a while, but I took it down and it's not sitting there anymore. And it dawned on me that really what I love to do is inspire others to make their own changes. And that's what you're talking about. You're learning things and making changes, becoming a better father. He's becoming a better son, and it's a collaboration. It's a conscious co-creation, right? And so this was the bumper sticker I just ran across. Do something for a change, and the do something for a change was to change yourself and to realize that most people are afraid of what they desire. They'd rather just sit on the couch and watch some football than get up and follow their dreams. And this past year,
Brian, I want to interrupt you on purpose, sir. Please forgive me.
yeah,
Why do you think people do that? Why do you
fear
think?
of success.
And actually, I want to volley this with you because
Yeah,
you and I talked about you. We never have anything planned, but you sent me a couple of bullet points. So on purpose, let's play ping pong. You said fear of
yeah.
success. So now I want to volley back to you. Why? Who doesn't want success? Of course, I'm a reflection of that because if I was a pure creator of it, the universe would mirror that back to me, and I would be hanging out as asked you to remind me by my son and said California, but I would be with you in California. So why are we afraid of success? What the fuck is that all about?
Well, um, it's sort of uh, it's sort of having the dream and then acting it out are two different things. Uh, you can make all the dreams and set all the intentions that you want. The Secret talks about the power of intention. I want, I want, I want. But you can't get anything unless you get off the couch, and you follow through. If you've ever watched basketball or any sport, they when you throw the ball or you shoot the ball, it's all about the follow through. If you shoot the ball and you pull back like this, it does. If you pull back like that, it doesn't work. So what you need to do is follow through. If you ever really watch a great basketball player, they follow through, and their hand goes out and over. Same a baseball pitcher or whatever. So it's all in that follow through that you get the magic. And most people don't follow through in their own life, and they wonder why they don't have the magic. And the power of intention doesn't work. Well, you've got to get off the couch. You gotta put your clothes on, put your pants on, and let's go be a big boy and do stuff. So people create their own blockages. Like probably thousands and thousands of people that are watching your show or have watched your show have thought, oh, I can do that. I want to do that. I want to do my own show. Well, they're afraid to do it. Oh, well, I don't have Skype. I don't have, whatever the roadblock is. My computer's not fast enough. And so they just push it to the side and they go back to watching TV. So for me, you and I talk often about some simplifying our spiritual ideals down to dumb, simple things, yum and yuck. It's a choice in every moment of your life. Yum, yum, yum is feeling good. And most things make you feel good that you dream and desire. And as you achieve things, you get more yum from that. But most people's dreams are so big, like, I want to record an album, but I've never written a song. I've never written a verse of a song or a whole chorus, but I've got this grandiose idea of how to do the album, right? And I've never sung before, and so I'm not any good at that either. And so they go about these dreams in life not as the steps to get there of first of all writing a verse, then writing a chorus, then put it together and making one song, and eventually making 10, and there's your album, right? And then you got to produce it and work with the band and lots of little steps to get there, right? And then once it's finished, do you put it out? Do you promote it? How do you go out and play live? There's a lot of things that go into making any creation. So most people don't fulfill their dreams because They get the big, I got the mountain. I want the mountain. I want the huge thing, but they're not willing to do all those little steps. And when one of the steps becomes difficult, instead of looking at that as crisis and an opportunity to learn and grow, they let it stop them and they go back to the couch and they go back to the rut and the familiar hanging out, and they're not, so anyway, it's create or destroy. And so with that creation, you choose to create something new in your life and challenge yourself. What comes with that are new lessons in life. And if you choose to sit on the couch, you just destroy yourself. You get fatter, you get lazier, you
begin to die.
Same thing. You get addicted.
You begin to die.
The news, or whatever the sitcom is, or whatever the show is, or the football game, and you get lost, and your life just passes you by. And Muhammad Ali said that if you're the same person at the age of 50 as you were at the age of 20, and you think the same things at 50 that you did at 20, you just wasted 30 years of your life. So it's never too late. I mean, there's many great successes that didn't come until they were 50, 60, even 70 years old. This one spiritual lady, Louise Hayes, I think she was in her late 60s when she finally showed up and clicked on. And,
That's correct.
Retired.
That's correct.
She started her life and her career then. That was, she just recently passed, but she left behind a legacy.
And she moved millions of people from 60 when she started to the time she passed. She created a publishing company, distribution company, the biggest metaphysical spiritual company to date, and no one has ever touched that level yet. Hay House, Louise Hayes. In fact, Brian, the first spiritual book, when that girl left and everything was topsy-turvy, someone said, Keith, read this book. It was tonight we're talking with my friend Brian D. Hardin, and one of our talk points is about health. Health, definitely physically. That is important. We're on Earth. Nobody wants to be in ill health, but on many different levels. But the first book I read was You Can Heal Your Life. Changed me. The power of thought, very simply put, it wasn't masculine in the power of thought. It wasn't none of that. And when I looked at her affirmations list, listening audience, Louise Hay, if you're not familiar with her, Hay House Productions, books. She, in her earlier days, she created this survey. She was wondering why people had these illnesses. So she took thousands upon thousands of entries. She'd go on the street and ask John Doe, tell me about any physical ailments you have. And they would say this, that, and she'd write it all down. So after a few hundred of those, she started seeing a pattern. Everyone who says they have headaches all the time has this same model of belief. And so it started to make sense to me, Brian, that if you have eye issues, be it I'm nearsighted, meaning I can't see it far away, I'm okay with what's happening to me now, but the future scares the living shit out of me. Or vice versa. If I'm farsighted, I'm okay because the future has to be a lot brighter than what I'm experiencing now. And so, did you know that, listen to this, did you know that Ray Charles, was blind? Did you know that at about 5 years old, he saw his 2 or 3 year older brother in Mississippi fall over into a barrel where people bathe in and drowned right before Ray Charles's eyes? A year later, he became blind. Did you know that?
Wow. So what you're talking about is when you're emotionally uneasy, you're diseased.
You're diseased.
You create your own disease.
You're diseasy.
Disease, And so ultimately, what is your frequency? What's your vibration? If you're vibrating in guilt or anger or fear or whatever those lower energies are, how can you raise, when we say raising our frequency, what we do is that those lower frequencies, those lower vibrations bring with them aggression and self-depressing. It's that yuck, and you're held in yuck. And if you feel bad, you're going to be mean to people, you know, and so you're down in that low energy. So if you're acting out an asshole, well, you're probably feeling pretty bad, and you can raise your frequency. So as you raise your frequency and get rid of the uneasiness and that lower frequency of bad, unharmonic energy, you raise to less worry, less anger, less fear. Your frequency goes up. You get more clarity, and you can connect better with people and with others. And then as you enlighten yourself, you're letting go of the heavies off your shoulders. And they say angels fly because they take themselves lightly. And so if you want to fly, if you want to fly, you get rid of the heavies off your shoulders, your anger, your worry, your habits of fear, of guilt, And so the trick of enlightening yourself, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens with a practice, and they call this a practice. And even though, oh yeah, I've cleared myself now, I cleared myself of many things that occurred to me when I was 16 years old. And here it was 40 years later, I got to relive all my 16-year-old negative experiences again this past year. And I got to re-look at those. So life is a funny little spiral of lessons. So, okay, learning compassion or whatever these little lessons as you go around. Well, for me, it took 40 years to come back around to that same life lesson I had at 16. And so it hit me pretty hard. This past year was really hard and really weird for me. And from that, I now have much more material to share and help people, because I helped myself over the last couple months and year to let go of some of my heavies, some of my patterns, some of my dysfunction or dis-ease. And you can literally feel it. I mean, if you have a broken heart, you feel it in your heart. If you got someone in your life that's a pain in the neck, you can feel it in your neck. If there's something going on, you got a gut instinct that there's something, and you can feel these things in your body, and they eventually turn to disease. So it's a choice, yum or yuck. So if you want to carry around these heavies all the rest of your life, well, then you're probably gonna hurt yourself. There's a story with the Buddhist that anger is like carrying around a hot rock, and you're carrying around this hot rock, this anger, and this is my anger, and I'm gonna one day throw it at that guy. I'm going to get this anger out, and I'm going to release it on that guy, and then he'll know, So you carry around this anger or this hatred or frustration for years. And all it is a burning hot rock just burning you. And it keeps you negative. It keeps you in that low energy. At some point, that's why we say forgiveness. You forgive, you forget. You don't have to forget. Like for instance, you can forgive, some negative thing, but you don't have to invite them over to babysit your kids, Yeah, you instead, let them go, and thank them for the lesson, and then you don't have to answer the phone for them anymore, because you already had your soul experience with them, You don't have to be best friends again. You can let it go until your frequency is so high that you can't see anything but love, and then you can approach them again. Does that all make sense?
Beyond. Yeah. Everyone, Brian and I hang out once every 3 months. This is not per se a formal interview. In fact, actually, we just ping pong back and forth spiritual ideas, our love for each other. We've never met. Oh, here we go back to my son Eads guy. So you posted something, or I was making the whatever for you because you and I's time now. And I said, son, this is Mr. Brian. And I told him about your successes and who you are to me. And I said, Mr. Brian wants me to go see him in California. And I said, maybe it's sometime in the future, if I'm blessed that way, I can head that way. He goes, why don't you go? So maybe I should follow the lead of Scripture, which is follow the lead of a little child. So I'm saying this publicly, y'all. Oh, shit. I'm now obligated.
Oh, you got to
So,
step up to your fears. You got to step up to your
it's
dreams.
it's not a it's truly not a fear. You know what? Fuck
Yeah,
that. I'm coming
yeah,
to see you. I'm coming to see you. All right.
good. But you got
So
to
I
step up to your dreams. Only you can live your dreams, and you can write the chapter. You know.
thank you for kicking my ass in this moment.
Yeah.
I'm coming.
Oh
To,
no, I
so
just you lay it all out and make the offer, and we'll see what happens. You know.
I'm coming to see you, bro.
Good.
So beyond in the green room or later, let's you and I connect about time. Maybe I can. Brian, let me ask you this: can you, knowing some people, can you get me some gigs, acoustic gigs, while I'm there, so I can make some money and kind of get into that energy? Not that it's required, but is that possible? A couple of
Anything's
bar
possible.
gigs.
All we have to do is imagine it. I imagination. I magic in nation.
So you don't
Whatever,
have any
whatever,
connection to
whatever
any
you want,
venues.
you can have. Because I guarantee you, uh, there's a million. Well, not a million. There's 17 million people in my neighborhood. 17 million, and that's L.A. That's Los Angeles. And there's got to be a couple 100,000 singer-songwriters out there that all need a bass player to play gigs, right? So you just start putting up on Craigslist. Hey, I'm gonna amazing pro bass player showing up into town with soul, you know, and I'm ready for.
Keyword from Memphis. That word, I swear to God, people have many thoughts about Memphis. I love Memphis, but the other people on this other side of the coin of the fence who don't have such beautiful things, the word Memphis moves things. If you go to Europe and you're not even a musician, you say I'm from Memphis, people, their heads just turn. So thank you for that. Thank you for letting me believe in me again. I'm going to come see you, bro. You sexy ass. Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard here, Center of Light Radio, hanging out with my bro ham sandwich, Mr. Brian Hardin. I love this guy. He and I are so connected at the hip. Brian, I'm going to say, I'm going to ask something, though I want to come see you. You and I both know we're going to be in a recording studio at least some matter of hours doing whatever the ever is. That would
Yeah.
be
Well, I've got great musicians everywhere. They're hanging around here. So, yeah, there's a need. You know.
just do a jam session, put some mics on. 10 minutes
Yeah.
later, we learn each other's groove and add lyrics. Let's go.
We did that last night here. We had a great time.
Oh God, I'm so jealous.
And recently,
Jealous
I bought a
again.
steel guitar, a lap steel guitar, and I bought 7 harmonicas today. They came in, and I'm just going to teach myself how to do things that I've never done before. And that's part of that yum or yuck thing, that create something or destroy yourself. So you have a choice at every second of every day. Do I want to make something today? Do I want to create something? And I don't care if your creation is to go organize your sock drawer. I don't care if your creations to mow the yard impeccably, and really do a great job of making the space look good or feel good, or go buy a new rug and redecorate your place. But your creations will always bring you some level of yum if you get into it. And they'll also teach you lessons. So they say with music that with learning, the best way to develop a brain is to create something. And so if you're just sitting there taking in things from YouTube or Facebook or watching TV or whatever it is, you're not outputting. You're not challenging yourself to develop, So I recommend all of us challenge yourself in whatever our dreams are, to step forward beyond the dream and to really move forward with that without fear, without horrible expectations, and it'll be great. Yeah.
I so love hanging out with you, man. I can't wait to, not if, when I come to LACE. It's gonna be fun, but you're gonna have to help set up some things to make my trip worthwhile. You have to show me some key things, some cool musical things, some cool. You know what? I love the musical stuff like you. So I want you to say, Keith, here's some perks because you're my friend and you're visiting, kind of thing. I'm into that, but I want to see what motivates Brian when
Uh-oh.
I'm in CA. Yeah, truly. Be it a
Yeah,
drive up the coast
Dolly
or
Parton was asked. She was acting on something, and whatever her acting was, uh, maybe she was directing. But someone said, "Well, what's my motivation?" And Dolly said, "Money." But my motivation hasn't been money for about 20 years now. I mean, I would love to have more so I can share more and give more, but my motivation is really to inspire, to enlighten and educate others with entertainment and
well,
do it
if that is the
with
case,
inspiration.
you are a
Yeah.
billionaire because you are doing that. If that is the case, I'm a billionaire because, like you, I sit in this chair, you sit in your chair. Whoever you are out there, you sit in your chair. If you're not fortunate enough, it has nothing to do with fortunate enough. It has nothing to do with lucky. This is not what Brian and I are talking about. I'm going to speak for Brian because I know I can because I know him so well. We know each other, and we would defend each other in the same lion's den. You're not fortunate enough to, and you're not blessed. You're not blessed. No more than any other knucklehead next to you. You are blessed, period. That's it. And so is everyone else. Are you going to sit on the fucking couch? Or are you going to take responsibility and take charge of your life and create some sort of, illuminate some sort of fire in you and kick your life beyond the contract that you made on the other side? Are you going to take that, in other words, this is the least I'm going to do in this life. Okay, you've been granted permission. Stamp, you can go down the earth. That is required because that's the contract. Are you willing to step it up? See, Brian, like you, like me, like many people, and for those who are coming upon this beautiful truth, space to live in, idea, what brings you into that heart space to where you feel you could be hit in the head with a sledgehammer and just be so okay with it? What are those things? Give me maybe a couple of three things. That one, obviously, music and producing and
Well,
creating. But
well,
what is your
so,
thing?
let's look at this for all of us, because actually this is a healing opportunity for everybody. If you knew you only had, a few months to live, or you, and at the same time you had all the money in the world and no responsibilities, what would you do with your life? What would you do with those 90 days? What would you do? And when you really drop in and listen to what you got in this ride of this body, this meat suit, this temporary meat suit that we get, our spirit gets to choose to ride in this meat suit for, 80 years or whatever it is. Well, think and connect with that question of what you would do with those 90 days. What you would do if you had unlimited amounts of money and all the things. What are you going to dream? What are you going to do? Who are you going to connect with? And what's stopping you from doing that now? Because as we talk about spirituality, Keith and I talk about spirituality, the lessons that we've learned both has been all you really have is this present moment, this now. And we can't guarantee that 5 minutes from now, either one of us are going to be alive, you know?
Well, Brian, let me interject, sir, because I want to expound on that because
Yeah.
that is a very, very, it's not only a very, it's not a key. It is the key. If there was ever a key, that key is the now moment. Okay, I get that. We have all these beautiful young people and their pseudo spirituality, throwing down astrology cards and all this on Facebook. I love the fact that the millennials, I love that word. Some people shun that word. I love millennials, a new way of being. The innocent are rebelling. They're rebelling. They don't need your permission to be who they are. But in this spirituality, people get lost in the idea of, oh, I get it. I need to be in the now moment. What is that now moment? How deep is it? What is that really made of for you? For me, Brian, that now moment, and in this now moment, this chain just fell off my neck, which is beautiful. This is a Gaia stone. Gorgeous. In this now moment, for me what that means. It's not just being here now, it's being so present. There is no past, there is no future. In fact, if you're thinking that I'm in the now moment because I'm not thinking about my past or my future, you're not yet in the now moment. It's this divine space that I feel after 4 songs when I'm playing with a rock band, because I mix sound and everything's good. You good? Need more? No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm in a space of freedom, so I literally take my shoes off when I perform because I feel connected to the
Grounded.
ground. Yeah, and when I'm in that space, Brian, there is no past, there's no future. And I'm sure for you that happens when you're creating and producing. What other times as to why when I said I want to come to California to see you, I want to see you in your essence. What would you do other than away from the studio? Drive up the coast, swim on the beach.
Well,
What would you do?
well, see that's a great question because see the you and I have a similar issue. We are musically creative and creative around that production and other things with that. Um, and there's another part of us, this our higher spirit, that's hanging behind us, saying there's a lot more that you can say than just playing bass or just mixing music. See, mixing music taught me to analyze frequency and follow the feeling of what the music does for me. And so when you're really playing great, you're producing and playing music that brings about a feeling and evokes a feeling in the listener, and certainly started off as a feeling from the player. And there's a feeling that's transpires. You don't even need to hear the same language. You don't need to hear the lyrics. You can feel the music when it's
It's amazing.
connection. It's a frequency.
What you are talking about is so cool. I was going to talk about it earlier, and then of course it left divinely, only to come back full circle now. When you were talking about, when we were talking about my child laying on my side, even though he's 14 and passing me up in height, when you said about feeling, there is a language that is so beyond talking. And when I lay in that space with that son, something happens on a very integrated level. There's a dialogue. There is a never not have ever been together kind of language that happens with music, as you were talking about, sir, about it being a frequency. When Mick Jagger cannot sing, he cannot sing. Tom Petty cannot sing. Bob Dylan cannot sing. But what they are craftsmen at, and so in their conviction, is telling you a story from a space that is so far beyond the words. That's why we like such style. But Brian, being in that space, playing music, mixing an album, doing what you do that brings you passion other than in a recreational way, there is a language that happens in the being connected to joy. It's always said that joy is evidence of the presence of God. So the places that we see out and about in our lives where there is no joy, then obviously we're not seeing the truth about ourselves. Hence the reason you asked me, Keith, what is your child teaching you?
So inspiration is in spirit. And that's when all that comes through, it's your spirit coming through. It's that soul or spirit. There's the body, there's the mind and the ego and the thinking music. But when the music's really coming through, it's coming through from that energy that's beyond. That is our connection to God or eternal energy or whatever. It's spirit, you know? So I died when I was 16, and I got to connect to that spirit. And my version of that spirit when I died was not a bearded white guy that looks like Santa Claus. What named Jesus or God up in the clouds. My version of it was energy of light. It was all pure white light. And I went to a space of white light and all knowingness. And in that, there was no anger, fear, guilt, regrets, and there was no low energy, anything. It was all the highest vibration of purity and all knowingness. And at that spot, I could connect in with every thought that's ever been thought, every feeling that's ever been felt. And so on the way there, I reviewed my life. On the way, when I was there, so I reviewed my life, and I was basically, during that review of each item that was reviewed, I was asked the question, did you learn your lesson? Did you learn your lesson? So the question is, every problem we have, do you learn your lesson? Or do you need to repeat it? If you need to repeat it, let's say you had an alcoholic parent, and then you choose to date alcoholics. And then you date one, and then you date another one, and then you keep repeating until you finally go, oh, I got to stop this, right? And, you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and then you finally make the change, right? So life is like that. So I finally got to that space of being in what you'd call heaven, that place surrounded, for me, it was light, white light. And it wasn't spoken in English or any other language, but it was basically asked, have you, meaning me, have I fulfilled my life's purpose? Did you fulfill your life's purpose on the planet in this body that we call Brian as a soul? And it's like, no, put me back. And immediately I popped back into that review of my life again channel, and I reviewed my life again with that same question. Did you learn your life's lesson? Did you learn your lesson from each one of those things? So finally, I get back to the body. I wake up in the body, and I realize, wow, I am fully. I'm fully here to actually do some things, to not waste this ride on this body, but to actually get some things done. But I also got this weird little message that you had 40 years to gather up your wisdom before you share it. And guess what? This month is the 40 years since I had my near-death experience. So now I get to share. So when you asked the question, probably 15 minutes ago of what am I doing? Well, I still have skills with music and vibration and frequency and feeling and all that. And that all comes into play. But it's time that I share some of this simple wisdom, because anything true is not complicated. It's not complicated. If it's complicated, it's probably not true. And so all these spiritual lessons that you and I share can be watered down to yum and yuck, to how does it make you feel? Do you care for others? Do you forgive? Are you grateful? Do you seek love, sharing love and being love? Are you in gratitude? Are you in joy? And do you have innocence and open-mindedness? Or are you stuck with, I know the way, this is the only way?
Brian, that we're talking about this. We've been talking about health.
Yeah.
To be a healthy individual, when you understand that the greatest pharmacy is not Walgreens and it's not CVS, Fred's, which went out of business, and it's not Big Pharma. The greatest pharmacy is called your brain. So when you go to a doctor and you're prescribed a pill, don't get me wrong, Western medicine has its benefits, and some pills do work. So what happened is,
if I get in a car accident, I don't need aromatherapy.
Yeah, right. In fact, one thing Sadhguru says, Western medicine, one of its beautiful divine qualities is, excuse me, if you're in a serious situation and you need attention now, Western medicine is the way to go. If it's over a period of time, then it's about the Eastern. So that's the marriage that is happening. And so, Brian, I was talking about health. That the greatest pharmacy is your brain, your gray matter. So when someone takes a pill, it may say it contains this compound or this component or this vibration they don't call tequila dictadine or whatever the fuck it's called. That's not really what's happening. What's happening on a metaphysical, beyond the level of physics level, is that this component, this vibration, is triggering the the pharmacy in your own brain, in your own head, to create this chemical. So with Louise Hay that we talked about a minute ago, when you have any issue in your life, even if it's momentarily, and it creates stress, it is scientific fact that stress causes disease, dis-ease. So even if your stress lasts for a day, a week, a month, a year, cells are dividing in your divine matrix that you call your body completely. So the body and the mind are not two different things. The body is in the empty space of mind made manifest. So if you have an issue in your eyes or in your nose or in your mouth or in your genitals or whatever part of your body, in your lungs, it's your mind. So in other words, if you have asthma and you have an issue with breathing, maybe a person can look around in their life and see where they're feeling smothered and don't have the opportunity, or rather not taking the gift that seems like a curse, to say, I need to breathe in this moment, versus being so choked because my family members are choking the life out of me, basically.
Well, it does also have to do with our choices that we make too, which get us there. For instance, if you eat poison every day, if you eat poison, after a while the poison will build up. And there's actually literally poisons in our food. It's in our underarm deodorant. It's in our food. It's in the dryer sheets. I mean, we're in an age of chemical companies ruling the world. They own the chemical companies. They make the foods, and they make the chemicals that go onto the foods that grow the food. They own the seed patents. They own the drug companies and all the drugs that alleviate symptoms of the chronic illness that the chemicals from the food cause. So all of those chemicals offer our body an opportunity for greater disease. So here's what I find. There's an emotional component to all of that toxicity. There's an emotional component to where if you, for instance, guilt usually sits in the gut in a certain way. And it'll create irritable bowel syndrome. It'll create Crohn's disease and digestive issues. But you mix that up with the right poisons, the chemicals with the feeling, and that's how the disease happens. So if you look at incidence of diseases increasing, autism, Alzheimer's, and so on.
Excuse me, Brian. I want to say thank you.
Oh, yeah.
You are literally the first person I've ever heard say that word absolutely correctly. Alzheimer's. Everybody says Alzheimer's. So I wanted to interrupt you to say
old timers disease.
Oh, right. Bro, I am so digging this dialogue because when you talked about guilt showing up in the gut and it creates Crohn's disease gut. What is Crohn's disease? Look it up if you don't know what it's about, and you see how these diseases of the mind, which is the silent part of the physical body, which is the body, how it just acts itself out.
About 20 years ago, I worked with about a dozen doctors, and we would gather together. These are doctors in California that I had the pleasure of connecting with. And we would gather together at the James Julian Health Center that is no longer there. Actually, the building's still there. It's on the corner of Hollywood and Vine. And about a block away, a friend of mine had Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease patients that he would house he had a care center 30 patients that he housed. And Holly Robinson Peete, her father was there as one of the patients. He was the first Gordon on Sesame Street. That's a whole nother side story. Which was an amazing
I
movie.
remember that.
Yeah, Gordon.
I know he is.
So anyway, he was there, and I got to interview all 30 patients, and I got to interview their caregivers, their children or their wife or whoever it was, and I found out that all of them had the same feeling. They all were lovely, beautiful, giving, caring, sharing people that spent all their lives giving and caring for others, and they never got back what they gave out. So there was an imbalance of that. And that imbalance had a little anger behind. And it was that anger that burned a part of the brain hot enough and exercised part of the brain hot enough and ran it that hot enough that it invited for, well, there's many things, for toxins to build up there caused by bacteria, flukes, parasites, other things, create a sticky spot there, because it's a breeding ground for all that. And then all the poisons we put in, the aluminum in our underarm deodorant, and the aluminum cans, the mercury we have in our
fluoride,
fluoride in our water, mold in our houses, radon, all the dryer sheets and all the extra chemicals. There's over 80,000 chemicals in our food and drug system that have never been tested. You add all those up, and there's a great chance of one of those getting stuck somewhere. So all the blood vessels from the heart down are actually pretty big. They're big. You can look at your arm and see the blood vessels are actually big going through there, your legs, so on. But you go up above your neck, your brain, the blood vessels are little itty bitty teeny tiny. So when you have a digestive issue to where your stomach's bleeding, well, guess what? The food can cross that and go into the blood. And if food particles in the blood, guess where they get stuck? Ding, 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 up here, right? Same thing with other chemicals. It starts breaking the blood-brain barrier. So fix your gut, fix your stomach. And what happens?
It's amazing.
So clogged,
Amazing, Brian, because for the listening audience, if you know someone, and whether it's a loved one or not, gut bacteria has everything to do with Parkinson's. Another thing is there is an amazing book out there. My singer for Lavender Soul, he's got Parkinson's. No, let me rephrase that. They told him he had Parkinson's, and now they're telling him we're not sure if he had Parkinson's, because he's been reading and following the book called something to the effect of having Parkinson's or fighting Parkinson's and winning. But also he's taking Sadhguru's inner yoga course. All that being said, Brian, when a person has a condition such as Parkinson's or anything to do with the mind, do you think that some level of them unconsciously is wanting to shut down? In other words, Parkinson's, if you look at Louise Hay's idea, or not, but just the idea of what is Parkinson's. The body wants to freeze, that somehow the mind has become hardened to ideas, concepts, to where it's no longer allowed itself to be free, but rigid and locked. Do you think this somehow has a truth bell to it, that as above, so below? Brian, I've always said that when a person, I won't say spirit, not because a person's spirit does not get ill. The soul is where spirit becomes the connection to the manifest. So the soul has a filter or a glitch or a distortion in it. And so the spirit first begins to vibrate and say, just to let you know, because you love beyond measure, you're not in balance. Well, because not everyone is in touch fully with the soul to get that notification, then it shows up in the mind. The mind says, hello, have you not noticed you're thinking a whole bunch of negative, diseased thoughts? And if a person doesn't get that inclination, then it shows up in the emotion where a person begins to feel horrible and things begin to sabotage their life from the outside world as a reflection. And if they don't get that, then it begins to show up in the physical world, meaning their physical body, where it can no longer be ignored and or denied. In other words, someone was diagnosed with cancer. You can't ignore it anymore. And in closing in this, before I go to commercial break, and I want your response.
Oh, no, we got to stay on this for a minute.
I need to use the restroom. I need to use the restroom. So you can talk while I tea. So that being said, there's a story that Wayne Dyer delivered, and it's amazing, and it supports my marathon, what I just said. This lady was married, and she was married for 60 whatever years. And the son of a bitch of a husband cheated for 25 years. And she knew it the whole time. She had cancer. And she's on a deathbed, on a gurney, in the hallway, of all things. And as she's knowing that she's not going back home. She knew that. So in the life review on that gurney, she recalled how much of a son of a bitch he was. But she also came to the realization she simply just loved him. She got off the gurney and went home.
She forgave him.
she went home.
Because the forgiveness is giving. You're giving back. You're not carrying around that hot rock wanting to throw it at anger. You're instead giving it back, and it's no longer yours anymore. That the anger, the fear, the regret, the whatever it is, low frequency energy was the disease. And so I've got a piano over here. I could show you if I choose a beautiful chord up top that I want to hit, but I put the wrong bass note with it, which you're the bass player, suddenly it just sounds like crap, right? It feels like crap. It feels like crap. It's horrible sounding chord, right? But if you match the bass, the root, the low frequency, the feeling to the rest of the chord, it's fantastic. So if you're
what were you and I talking about
yeah.
in the green room? Brian,
Yeah.
Everyone who out there who does not know Brian or just familiar with Brian is a record producer in Los Angeles. But Brian and I were talking. I was trying to get a sound check on this microphone, and because I'm a sound engineer and a musician, so saying Brian, talk to me so I can get levels. I said, hit your kick drum or your bass drum. Hit your bass drum, and he said, you know what, Keith? I don't do that. When I sound check as a record producer, I don't have the drummer hit the drum. I ask the drummer, and the bass player to play the first song we were going to cut for the album, and I tune the bass drum to the track. So that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, you make them connect. There's a connection that happens, you know. An individual sounding good kick drum is not great sounding until it's relative to something, you know, and you connect it in. And there's a place for everything, you know. So with that, going back to the chord, I kind of feel like our lives work in different frequency. So you could have things like your health really, really good, your wealth really, really good, but something else in your life like your relationships could be not bad. Yeah, I mean, not good. So what happens is there's a chord that's played between body, mind, spirit, or these different compartments. And ideally, they all work in harmony together. You know, like a piano player plays all these different notes, and together they make harmony. But if you put one of those notes off, the whole chord feels bad. So some people are going around with all the money in the world or all the health in the world or whatever else, but something else is wrong in their system. And so they end up being jerks. They're not right. And when they fix the thing that's wrong with them, suddenly the chord is musical, it's in harmony, and they are in harmony with the rest of the world. So people like, you know, Dalai Lama said, and other wise elders say this, many say this, that if you want to create world peace, you do it through self-peace. So if you want to create anything in the world bigger than you, you have to have it here first. And so if I am in dysfunction, I'm not going to be a very good leader or teacher or producer or anything else if I'm out of balance. So look at your relationships. If you're inviting someone in your life that is out of balance, they're there to be a teacher for you on the negative, what not to do. But if they are truly clear, they could be a great leader. And if you surround yourselves with those amazing high frequency, in tune people, then you raise to their frequency too. So if you hang out with pigs long enough, you start smelling like them, you know? And so it's your choice of yum and yuck. And it is, Quentin Crisp said, there's no use in going through your life wanting to be a ballerina and yet spending all your life being a pig farmer, and taking care of all the pigs, So after a while, dancing no longer becomes your passion. Pigs become your style, and you are stuck in this pig farm, So the Magi nation that you and I talk about, the magic, we talk about manifestation. Oh, just dream it, just imagine it, and then it'll come. No, you got to get off the couch and you got to do something. But you've got to be in harmony with yourself. You've got to be whole. When we say holy, it's whole. It's your body, your mind, your spirit. You got to be connected. You can have all the money in the world, but if your health is horrible, you're not going anywhere. And so you've got to have everything connected. You got to take care of the whole being of yourself and listen to your spirit. Most of us turn off the spirit. The guy over on our shoulder going, that's not so good of an idea. But I want to do it, but there's more money. Yeah, but it's a bad idea. It'll bring you misery. Oh, but I want the more money. And so you chase after the money or the fame or whatever else, and you forget about what your spirit really needs. And what happens is you stumble and fall. Hopefully you fall forward, get up, and you realize, oh, I should have listened to my spirit. Your intuition, your spirit, your heart is the leader, or should be the leader. And we've often made our mind the leader. We say, you are what you think, you are what you think. Just think it and imagine it, and then it'll come. No, you have to feel. You got to feel it. Our whole thing is about feeling. This manifestation that The Secret talks about, and these other great people telling about how I know how to manifest. You buy my course. The course is listen to yourself, listen to your feeling, listen to your yum, listen to hear, feel your heart, feel the music, feel what's going on, what the chord being played is inside of you. And when one of those notes is out, you got to work on it and get that in tune with the rest of the notes on the piano or in your own being. And when you're in harmony with yourself, then you're there, and it's a constant battle because, as we age, we start losing our health in different ways or having challenges with our health in different ways. And so we might have all the money in the world, but our health might be failing. So you got to tune up your health. You got to exercise more. You got to eat right. You can't eat the same crap you ate at 16 years old. You got to change everything, And so what are you doing? You got to analyze. This is life, man. You got to analyze it, What are you doing for your body? What are you doing for your mind? Most of us don't read anymore. Kids don't read. I've got an insane book library. Because I'm having to clean out my storage in the next 2 months, I probably have 700 pounds of books that can't fit in my place because I've read them all, And I'm still always buying books and reading them and recycling. So I'm kind of excited over the next month or two of going back and finding some new gems and rereading them again, But most people don't read, challenge their mind. They don't challenge their body. They don't exercise. They don't walk. They don't breathe. They don't sweat. They don't eat the right foods. That's all physical. The mental. They don't challenge themselves to create, take on new things. Creativity. If you really want to challenge your brain, write a song. You can suck at it. You don't have to be a good singer and good player. Just try it. And after you do about 500 bad songs, you start writing good ones, you know? and then and then you're great. But then the spirit thing is a whole different thing. You know, the physical and the mental, that's where everybody's sitting at, but they don't even realize there's a third part. You know, in Christianity, they have Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Well, Father's the mind, Son was Jesus, the body, so mind and body, and then this Holy Spirit. We fluff over that in church, you know, and say, but the Spirit is what you and I talk about. That's what we can hear. And that's when you quiet your mind and you open your heart and you play the music and you connect and you can feel the flow of creativity, of God, of spirit showing up when you're playing bass with the band with your eyes closed. You're surrounded by the support.
Angels.
Angels. You're surrounded by, and there's no brain going on. You are not thinking the music. You are totally in feeling.
You are the music.
Nothing coming through. And you can do that with everything in your life. You can do that with meticulously mowing the yard and getting in a zone. You can do that in any. I think these race car drivers do it when they're racing. They get in such a zone.
In fact, that's amazing, Brian. I'm gonna take a pause because I have to use the Mother Nature call, and I'm going to read you something called The Zone, and it talks about race car drivers. Be a great segue. Everyone, I have to use the bathroom, and I want to support Brian in taking another notch further. Brian was talking about the idea that it takes basically, you have a dyad, which is two notes, a first and a third, or a first and a flatted third, or a first and a fifth. That creates a semichord. Or if you have three notes, it creates a full chord, a first, a third, and a fifth, or first flatted third and a fifth, which is a minor. So that being said, if one of your aspects of your life is out of balance, two of them might be, and so the chord is almost there, but there's this little you're hitting a bad note. To further that, my piano player, as if I own him, Angela Rapin, from Lavender Soul, my spiritual band, award-winning classical pianist. So I walked up to the piano and messed up, trying to play it, hit up some bad notes. He goes, Keith, check this out. He intentionally played bad notes versus unconsciously playing bad notes in the song of his life. He walked up to the piano and just took his hands and hit it and kept hitting it. Strangely, somehow in the chaos, it became musical. So there are no rules in life. Once you become beyond the theory of being a musician, an artist, an inventor of your own life's tapestry, then you can throw the nonsense, the theory of it all away, because you have transcended yourself beyond the conundrum. And so everything becomes a part of your will. My name is Keith Anthony Blanchard, hanging out with my dear friend, Mr. Brian Hardin. Welcome to the Mystery Machine. I just like the image, and I stuck Brian in the windshield, and we like sock puppets over Scooby-Doo. Rut-row. We're going to see you shortly. Going to be right back. Take a breath. We're going to be here for a little bit. Lavender Soul. Breathe. That's all you got. You breathe every day, all day. When you do it consciously, you find yourself, as Brian and I talked about earlier, in the now moment. So what is the now moment? No one will ever be able to explain it to you. Breathe. Fall into the silence, and suddenly, for yourself, the new world will appear. Breathe.
Trust that I will guide you in whatever you do. Just remember to breathe and do your very best to live in love, give in love, be in love, and love you shall receive.
breathe and expand myself to know there is no one else but me and God who's in my heart. So I'll breathe and expand myself and know there is no one else but me and God.
Welcome back to Center of Light, hanging out with my dear friend in California, yay, Mr. Brian D. Hardin. Brian, welcome back to Center of Light. I want to ask you a question, sir, or share something with you. When I was, by the way, let me bring up some fun.
Uh-oh.
Right. Sesame Street. I remember Gordon. He was the Mr. Rogers kind of guy that wore the sweaters, right?
Yeah, he was the black dude on Sesame Street. And then after that, they always had another black guy. And what happened was it all came about to overcome racism. Because, back in the late 60s, like 1968 or whatever, finally Martin Luther King and everybody else and all the hippies were writing great music about it, that we were all fed up and tired of that old paradigm. And so if you really look, 1968 was a radical shift for a lot of people. That was 51 years ago. And I could feel it. I was alive then. I was 5 years old, and I could feel this feeling of art and music and respect all coming together, that we all started to see we were all one. Realized that a lot of that came about because the white kids were emulating black music, like all the soul and all the amazing black music that was going on was being stolen by the Beatles and by the Rolling Stones and other bands, and then coming over here from England. And they're playing other people's songs, soul songs. So then we started honoring some of the greats like Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, they were the roots of some incredible music, and they probably died poor compared to where some of the copycats stealing their songs were. But realistically, the music started changing in the 60s, and the respect started changing. And then women started standing up for equal rights. And, obviously Martin Luther King and so on. Muhammad Ali said, I don't want to go to war for your war. I got nothing against no Viet Cong, is what he said. He said, put me in jail. I'm the greatest boxer in the world, but I'm no killer. I'm not going to kill anybody. I put a gun in my hand and I'll just set it down. I'm not doing that. Put me in jail instead. So he went to jail, and he was Cassius Clay when he went to jail. And when he came out, he was Muhammad Ali. Once again, standing up as a Muslim, like saying, hey, you can believe anything you want to believe. So he stood up for racism. He stood up against war. He
was a Muslim.
Yeah,
he was a Muslim.
Religious rights,
right?
Right. And but he stood up for what was right for all. And so I have total respect for Muhammad Ali doing what was right for all. And then others came along with that. All the musicians, all the music that was coming out, there was a feeling to it. There was all this optimism. And that lasted from like 1960s or like 67. Beatles were singing All You Need Is Love, Give Peace a Chance, Come Together. They were singing brilliant music, right? And Stevie Wonder was singing all this amazing heart-opening songs. Others just following through. Brilliance. And so that we still connect to those same songs. It's amazing that in 50 years we haven't developed that big of a catalog of songs that replaced what was going on from 68 through like 76.
It will never happen again. It will never happen again.
No, it will happen again. I'm optimistic.
I'm optimistic, yeah, so my apologies. But those songs that you're referring to, they will never die. They're ingrained in the DNA of forever. Yeah, and what I was going to say earlier was, you and I were touching base on the things that are happening in the pharmaceuticals, where they're giving us this and that, and the body needs to have, and this is what's happening and all that. But when I was, we look out in the world right now and we see lots of things. The food's poison, like you said. The water's poison, Flint, Michigan. This, that, and the other. The skies are being sprayed. California wildfires are being started by all this redonkulous, nonsensical shit. But when I interviewed Swamji, God Realized Man from India, month and a half ago, I asked him, as my role, as my contribution to this earth, I always seen Brian to take the position as if I'm a spokesperson for other people. Be it in my book, The Divine Principle, be it my time with Swamji interviewing, I'm always the person asking the questions what I think is important to the welfare of humanity. And asking the question in such a way, look, I don't know what throne you're sitting on, and I know it's absolutely the absolute throne, but down here on earth, things are not so peachy. All right, so I need you to engage, and I know you can't intervene with thy free will, but I try to ask those questions from a space that they have no choice but to answer, because my heart is open. So, I'm a concerned denizen of this earth, and as a person who's engaged to you as a disciple, fuck, what do we do with Fukushima? What do we do with this? What do we do with that? What do we do with this? And he would never really answer my question. So I thought, he would say, well, Keith, what you need to do and everybody needs to do is this. He would say, love. It always goes back to love. So he wasn't being vague and avoiding my question. What he is saying is, when we live in love and live in these spiritual models, principle, truth, you become shielded from 5G. If you live in California like you do, and California does fall off the earth, Brian that day is happening to be in a canoe. It's living in love. Love is the shield. As I said last night in my presentation, Brian, titled Spontaneous Human Combustion. When we become so spontaneous as a human being that we combust In that conflagration of light, you become invincible. You will not change this world. What you will do is elevate yourself to another plateau and take others with you. This world is a frequency. It is A440 when we really want to just retune ourselves to 437 or whatever the frequency is. So we're not really going to buffer ourselves. We can't really change. Our greatest protection from pharmaceuticals, vaccines, all these things is truly living in a state of vibrational love. That is the shield from all the nonsense.
We are a society that has the most information coming at us than ever in the history of mankind. Yet we're going to die of ignorance. We've got more information at our fingertips, yet we're going to die of ignorance as a group. Which it's because, look at the root of the word ignorance. Ignore. We're ignoring the truth of what is plain to see. So with that information age comes disinformation age, right? So if you've got a lot of money, you can spread disinformation just as, because you own the media, right? And take a look at who owns the media companies. Follow the money. And so if you're in mass media, if you're watching the same old channel 3 or channel 2, 4, 5, 7, and 9, if you're watching those same channels all the time, or the same news outlets on cable TV, who owns those? At one point, we had over 50 news outlets that were all individual. And with that, there were at least 50 reporters on every job giving 50 different opinions. And if you want to see what the elephant is, there's a story about the blind men and the elephant. The blind men come up to the elephant and they all touch the elephant from different points of view, and they describe the elephant from their point of view. Well, you can get a bigger picture if you've got 50 points looking at it. But what happened is we're now down to 6 or less media outlets, and they control what is fed into us. So it's easier to control propaganda and monocropping the information. And so when we have that monocropped information, you believe their truth instead of what it really was. I mean, I can get on into details of like what the Democrats did, what the Republicans did, back and forth, and tell you that both sides are equally at play on all of this. And if you're choosing one of those two as an option, you haven't gotten the real big picture, is that the whole system is flawed. And so follow the money. I had a business degree, and the first day of business school, they said, corporations, capitalism, yay. So the number one goal of any corporation is profits for their shareholders. Money for their shareholders. They need more money, more money, more money. That's our only thing. Has nothing to do with doing anything ethical or anything for we the people or for the longevity of the planet or with a vision of the future. It's all about money, 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 money. That's
Brian,
it.
was it you that told me the difference between morality and ethical?
Oh, yeah. All right,
Please share that.
All right, so morals, we're talking about the body, the mind, and the spirit, right? So our body feels these feelings, but our mind thinks that's ego, and the mind is all up here. Ego and the mind. Oh, I need more money. I need more stuff. I need more. That'll make me happy, right? And so your brain, we're taught, you are what you think. Think more, be more thoughtful. But it's really feeling, right? So that is actually, that's the evolution of consciousness, and that's what's missing with a lot of these spiritual people selling you their way of doing things. They're forgetting the feeling, and that's the mind is like the masculine. That's force. The feminine is the heart, and that's taking form. That's actually allowance. No, see the feminine heart as a grandmother who gathers everybody in a big circle and gets everybody in that beautiful circle, and you all see each other equally the whole way around the circle, and everybody's on the same plane. Now, see the masculine as that one man up front saying, "This is how things are," and everybody else is facing them, all in the audience, facing them. So that's the old paradigm. It's one leader and everybody following, right? Well, so let's go back to morals and ethics. So morals goes to the church. It's all about thinking, the mind, right? You are what you think, and we'll tell you how the religion is. Well, Jesus did not write the Bible. He didn't sit there and write it all out. That was written by his followers, and then over 800 transcriptions of the Bible got all mixed up by a guy named King James, and they took all these different translations and they mixed them up into another thing called the King James Bible. Well, the king, money, rich, do you think he left out some parts and added some parts and cut out parts of the Bible that were spiritual truths that were missing? Yeah.
Enter the Council of Nicaea.
Yeah. I mean, so we can go deep on all this, but let me get back to the ethics and morals. So what happens is the church is all about morals. It's all about the mind, and we're going to tell you what right and wrong is. These are the 10 commandments, and you must do these, and if you do, you're going to go to hell forever, and you're going to burn forever. No, my God will not put you in hell forever. My God is a loving, kind God that wants you to stumble around and have problems and then overcome the problems and not repeat what got you into the problem, and to grow and to learn and to care and to share and learn how to be a good father, learn how to be a good mother, learn how to be a good grandfather and a grandmother, and to teach and to share your gifts, and your creation, your inspiration in spirit, So let's go back to morals and ethics again. I keep getting off track here. So the morals of the mind, and religion, this isn't just Christianity. This is all religions, Like Jesus was not a Christian. Buddha was not a Buddhist. Muhammad was not a Muslim. These are men after these great men. These are men that made up this control mechanism to fear you into control so you'll pay the taxes and give some money and blah, blah, blah. So morals are about the mind. So morally, we can convince our Christian military to go kill some Muslims. Here's a gun. Christians are good, Muslims are bad. Here's a gun, go kill some Muslims, and do it for the good of America. It's going to bring about freedom, right? So what happens is these guys with the guns are told to just follow orders, and they listen. Well, morally, I have a moral obligation, a mental obligation to do this. I've got to go save my country, right? And they go and they do horrible things, and when they come back, there's a sense of guilt and feeling, and there's something wrong. And we have 23 or more people every day that were veterans die every day. 23 veterans commit suicide every day. We don't talk about that. We've lost, I think, 120,000 or more. Please look it up, since the year 2000. In 19 years, over 120,000 people have committed suicide or died. And then in actual military things, I think it's more like 5,000 people have died in those 19 years. And so we're sending people off to create things that are not in harmony with their being. So ethics are listening to our mind. Morals are listening to our mind. That's the mind in control. Ethics come from the heart. Now, if I gave you a gun, Keith, and said, go take this gun, and you've got a really, really bad neighbor that does blah, 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 and I tell you this big story, blah, 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 and here's a gun, go over there and kill him. Well, mentally, if you're a weak-minded person, you might actually believe the lies and whatever, and you might actually do that, especially if you were in fear, right? But if you're a strong-minded person and connected to your heart, there's not an ethical bone in your body. Your heart can feel there's something wrong with that, especially when you look them in the eyes. Everybody on this planet has the same wants and needs, and we all want to be loved. We all want a community that dances the same dance and eats the same food and has connection. We all want education. We want growth. We want happiness. We want security. Everybody on the planet wants this. Doesn't matter what country you are, what color skin you have, and what religion you follow. It's all the same. We all need and want the same stuff. So that little guy in Baghdad that's got a bakery in a building that his family's had for, no kidding, 2,000 years in Baghdad, or that's where Jesus was from, right? All that Samaria and all that, that whole area, like Iraq, Iran, like that's where Jesus was from, right? So all these, this little bakery, this little guy makes bread for his community, and all of a sudden he's got warriors running up and down his street with tanks, knocking down his doors, busting up his business, and scaring the community. So he throws a rock at the tank, and they murder him. And then what happens is that kid who was scared for his life comes home and ends up killing himself, because he finally wakes up. His heart says, oh my God, you killed someone to throw a rock at your tank. That was wrong. And he could feel it. And I live 2 blocks away from Venice Boulevard in Los Angeles, which is an ocean, a river. Venice Boulevard is a river that goes from Venice Beach, where all the homeless hang out, to downtown LA, where all the homeless hang out. And there are homeless people within 2 blocks of my house. I know. And they sleep in different places every night, every day. I have to look them in the eyes, and many of them are veterans. Many, many, many are veterans. And they didn't choose being there. It's not a choice that they wanted to go there. Like when they were growing up, their dream in their life was to be homeless on the streets in LA, fearing for their lives. That was not their dream. And it still isn't. They need help. They need psychiatric help. They need food, clothing, shelter. It's appalling that we claim this United States is the greatest country in the world. We're the richest country in the world. Well, it's about 10 dudes. There's like 10 dudes with all the money. All the money. They own all the corporations. They own all the money. They own both sides of the political spectrum. It's crazy, right? Right? And so with that money, power, greed, whatever, so we're saying we're the greatest country in the world, but we judge ourselves on how many billionaires we can make. We give bailouts to billionaires and to banks. Well, if you would have given the bailout to the people, guess what they would have done with it? They would have put it in the bank. If you give the bailout to the people, guess what they do? They'd go buy a new car. They'd go buy new clothes. They'd support the local businesses. It'd eventually get to the bank. So why are we giving billionaires tax-free money, $1.5 trillion? It's insane making. Right? And it wasn't just this administration. It was the one before, and the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. Look it up. I mean, it pretty much started, in my knowing, with Ronald Reagan. A trickle-down economics. This was the big myth that you give all the money to the rich few guys, and it'll trickle down. That's like saying give all the good wine to the rich guys, and we can drink their piss. It makes no sense. And so instead, if we money is that root of all evil. Well, it's also one of the 4 world problems. You and I have talked about this before, and I don't have to go into it, but to get, I don't know. I hope I covered it enough. There's so much more I want to say, and I can go on for hours. I'm sorry.
There is a pretty popular meme on Facebook, or it has been circulating for a few years. And the first time I saw it, it truly moved me, Brian. It's this picture of this little Viet Cong soldier, maybe a North Korean soldier, whatever. It's this little short statue of a guy, and his lip is quivering, even though it's a still static photograph. You can see his lip quivering, and his eyes are just welled up with tears. And it says on the meme that I am so sick of young men fighting the wars and dying that which was dreamed up by older men. And you can see all these young Korean soldiers ready to lay down their life for whatever reasons. And we could say, well, he's a dictator. What do you think has happened in America? So many people, I get it, they're a patriot. You should love your country. Yeah, I love my country, but I don't get lost in the patriotic nonsense that I'm going to go. I've had people I had to unfriend Brian, I thought were close with me, and I was close with them, that says, we just need to go drop a bomb on them sand niggers. And I'm like, are you serious? Did you just actually post that on my wall? And I'm thinking to myself, you just offered up to go drop a nuclear weapon on a race of people to annihilate not only the people, but the landmass itself for your so-called patriotic morals. I don't know. A part of me, Brian, I get it. That's the part of this world that will never change. But that feeling capacity in me says, oh my God, are you so blind? And, a chain is only strong as its weakest link. And if humanity is the right word, then you definitely have to be one of the weakest links. And you're holding everybody back, and you're part of the problem.
All right, so we're back to ethics, right?
Right.
If you feel it, right? And so the evolution of humanity is this old paradigm was about ignorance, greed, fear, and the powers of old. Jesus said, don't judge. And he was he came in on Pisces. Pisces was 2,000 years of running this Piscean age. And Pisces is a fish right side up and another fish upside down. And it's about judgment. Those 2,000 years of that cycle of the astrology was 2,000 years long, and he said, don't judge. Well, we judged for 2,000 years, and we fought, and, I'm better than you, right? Well, this new way of being is where we're in now, this Aquarian age, and it's more about we. It's get out of the me, and get into the we. And the we is that heart again. We were talking about ethics. It's the heart. It's the feeling. So we don't think our way to ethics. We feel our way to ethics. This whole being, this whole way of us digging out of our space is to come to a place of feeling and to think about we and to think about the longevity of the planet. So here's some odd things, all right? We lose between 150 to 200 species of plants and animals every day. Every day. Please look it up. 150 to 200 plants and animals species die. Gone. Never to come back. We're done with them. Crazy. So what are we doing? What are we going to end up with? Like corn, soy, and wheat? I mean, what about all the little critters and all the little animals that go with it, and we're going to put pesticides and oil on them? Like, it's crazy. So we're losing our ability to have our own medicines, to have our own fuels, to have our own chemistry set, to put things together. And we're killing species off. And new species don't come overnight. We kill them off every day, but there's no new species. Show me one. That's evolving. It takes hundreds of thousands of years.
There's a great new debate. You've seen it. Obviously, everyone here, anyone in the future that comes into this forum to see this interview with Brian and I, we've all seen it. So the great debate, Greta Thunberg and all this stuff. Look, I am not one to be in denial to say that there may be an agenda being run from certain factions that want to spin the idea that the world is climate change. But don't kid yourself for a moment. Like Brian just said, you know, if we believe that we're being fooled by the factions that climate change is not real, if we do something and it's not real, we end up with a better world. If we,
We are
do
killing
not,
species.
if we
I mean,
do, you're right.
beyond, and what's killing them is this. Please look up how many species were dying. It's crazy.
And if we
You know?
if we do nothing, all hell will break loose.
Yeah.
And so I asked Swamji that very question about climate change. And it's real. He did not answer. He didn't say yes, no. He cannot get involved in human affairs. It's happening. So if it's not real and we do something, if we pick up that trash on the ground while we go into the Walmart, we're doing something. If we're doing something and it's not real, we win. If we do nothing and it is real, we're in a shitload of trouble. And Swamji says, it's not pretty. Right now, things are on the cusp that where it can get pretty intense.
So
It's
this
real.
information age, we need to act. You know, that do something for a change. Bumper sticker I had, it's somewhere around here. Anyway, do something for a change. It's us acting. It's us getting off the couch. You know, if you're passionate about the animals or the plants or whatever, let's get off the couch and do something, you know, and stop with the disinformation, stop with the disbelief, and stop with just watching the flow of mind chatter, right? Keeps you in the mind. Listen to your heart. Let your heart take lead, you know? So with that, we've discussed this before. There was a group called an Alliance for New Humanity, and they put together all these great scientists and Nobel Peace Prize laureates and scientists and corporations that all wanted something good for the planet, and they realized that fixing the economy or fixing the healthcare system or fixing the environment or whatever they wanted to fix all came down to one thing: fixing our own spiritual connection, having a spiritual awakening. And when we have a spiritual awakening, we awaken to what's going on in this world, and we can start to see down the road for the future of humanity. And so without that spiritual awakening, you just ride along numb, drinking beer, watching TV, doing the same old patterns. You know, they say insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting
Doing what we are told.
Yeah. So anyway, they came up with 4 world problems, and here's what they are: ecology, economy, war, and then what I call isms. And so here's what they are. Ecology. We're obviously treating this little planet, this Earth planet, as if it's unlimited resources. And we've already shown that we've overfished our oceans and gotten rid of like 90% of all the fish in the oceans, just out of this greed in the last 50 years or so. We've consumed that. So how are we going to feed those same amount of people even more? How are we going to do that with the oceans dying and less fish and acidifying and putting plastic in it and blah, 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 right? So those are big problems. And so kids are stepping up. They can feel it. They can feel that there's a problem. I've actually had the pleasure of hanging out with a bunch of these kids. If you look up, there's a kid named Juteska Martinez, and he spoke with Greta at the Congress just a month ago. At Congress, whenever she spoke at Congress, he was there with her, and his name is Juteska. It starts with an X, Juteska Martinez. And he's 19 years old. Since he was 6, he was standing up and changing laws. It started off in Colorado and Denver and Boulder, and then it spread to the world. And so he's won awards. He was the Greta of last year, if you know what I mean. And hopefully he still is an amazing warrior for the planet. And I hang out with these kids. And here's what we did. We'd have film crews show up, and they'd interview them and do famous, things trying to And he would never stage anything. And one day we're working on his album, and film crews had been there filming and blah, blah, blah. And they finally leave, and we get to really working on the album. And he's like, hey, it's Sunday. Let's go to the farmer's market and grab something to eat. We go down to the farmer's market, and he calls up his friends, and they all hang out, and they meet him. And we all hang out and lay on the grass and hang out and have a good time. And he chooses, he's like, come on, let's go. And I was like, where are we going? Are we going back to record? He said, no, we got to go clean up at the trash. Like, what? And he and this huge group of friends go up all around Boulder, Colorado, and with trash bags going through the river, the stream or whatever, along the riverbanks, and they clean up all the trash. And there's no film crews, there's no photo ops. This is because this is what they do. This is what makes them happy. Because they knew it needed done and no one was going to do it. There wasn't a city ordinance and city workers doing it. They did it, right? Because it makes them happy, because they know the planet needs it. So when he gets up and speaks, there's no money behind him. There's no billionaires giving him money saying, do this. No, he does it. His parents, his mother lives in a rented house for a whole bunch of kids, and they pay rent and just get by. There's no billionaires funding Greta, not that I know of. Maybe supporting her to make sure she gets to the place or whatever. But this is not like, why would a billionaire or with disinformation decide to choose an autistic kid that's kind of dorky looking as their role model? No. They'd pick a supermodel, right? Or something like that. But she says it like it is. She says, we're in the sixth mass extinction.
I think she scares the shit out of the white man.
Oh yeah.
They don't know what to do that. And Brian, and I don't want to get into this dark subject. I just want to glaze over it.
Well, I was going to go back to where you said love is the answer.
Love's the answer. If we look at what's happening to children in the world, I started a new website called Save Our Children. All the child trafficking, which goes off planet. Yes, I did say that. Humans occupy local space, and child trafficking goes off planet. Point is, why is it all now coming about the children? Why are the children being the most affected? Because, in the words of Whitney Houston, I believe the children are the future. So all that being said, the factions, the energy, and I'm not talking about just bad people in corporations and the shadow government. We're talking about the energy influence on different levels. Why is it children? Whoever thought, Brian, when you and I were kids riding bicycles on the street, did we ever think that being both, now I'm coming on 56, I'm on your heels, that at this day we'd go, oh my God, all these atrocities are happening to children. We never thought this would be possible, but why? Because children are being targeted because they are the way showers. They are part of the Christ Messiah ship. And they have all this knowledge, divine power, divine wisdom, that they're ready, like the gentleman you just spoke about, Greta Thunberg, and many other children who are here to say, I'm not interested in your folly. And so they pierce every hole on their body. They do everything that's against the public's way, the morality. They're bucking the current, and the little child shall lead them. And so I think the children are being targeted, to use a word, because, think about it. In the time of Jesus, what did they do, all the children in the time of Jesus? They killed all the firstborn. What did they do in the time of Moses? They killed all the firstborn because they're scared to death. The white man, the Romans, the Europeans. And I'm a white man, so I have the power and I can say it because I'm white. But that consciousness, they're trying to snuff out the light that can and will show up to say, I am here to change the world, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. Seriously, nothing.
So the Roman battle plan, divide and conquer, right? Divide and conquer. So, they're the bad guys. We're the good guys. We're the red team. We're the blue team. Those are the other teams, the bad guys. What happens is we're not looking up. Both of those teams are the rich few, and the rich few we call the oligarchy. And if you've ever watched the fake wrestling, World Wrestling, where they plan, okay, you throw me here and I'll almost win, and then you'll come back. Take a look at our elections. Please look this up. Turn on your internet and look up how close all these elections have been for the last, I said since Reagan. Look them up. 49 to 51%. 49 to 51%. Do you really think all these elections are 49 to 51%? What happens is it keeps us all stressed out, and if you just would have done a little bit better for the next 4 years or 8 years,
it's like a good boxing match. It's like a good football game. Because look, you go and you want to root for Mike Tyson. Everybody, you like Mike Tyson. You want him when you know he's going to win. But you don't want the match to go one round. You want it to go the 15. Same with the football game. We were speaking about the Romans. How do we distract? We create football. We give you your sports. We give you your arena. So while you're so hyper-focused and fixed on, oh my God, the Alabama or the Saints or whatever is your groove, or the Pistons or the Golden State Warriors, why are you all hunkered down into that, living your miserable life vicariously through other people? They doing things, whoever they are, behind your back, our back, to further their agenda. So it doesn't make them responsible for what they're doing. It makes us responsible, and in so doing, we become empowered, and we live the very life we came here to do, which is to be those very children as children of God and rebel. It's not about anarchy. It's about rebelling. What is the Constitution, right? It is your duty, your obligation to stand up against any system that will bind you in control. That is the Constitution by nature, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. So there's a kind of consciousness shift, a call for consciousness shift again. What you just said is all those people watching football and getting excited about that. If we had that 110,000 people that were in the stadium that day being that excited for 2 hours a week about raising their consciousness, raising their frequency, and doing what's right for the longevity of the next 7 generations of people, we will, when we do that, we'll have change on this planet. So Native Americans think 7 generations down the road, how this decision we're making today is going to affect the next 7 generations. And so it's that way. Is we have to focus on what we're doing that is affecting the world, and that we. And so we're in a small world, It's like my car's from Germany, my vodka's from Russia, my stereos from Japan, my clothes are from China, and whatever else. It's like it's a small world, And so why hate anybody? I mean, we're actually doing business with everybody. Why our new evolution should be peace, and that self-peace is the only way to world peace. And so self-actualization and looking for the future. So you've got a son now, and with your son, instead of just thinking for his future, we got to look for his kid's future, and then beyond 7 generations down.
Sure,
And
Brian,
how
but
is that going to affect them?
for most people, the common thought would be, like someone just said in the forum. I want to acknowledge her really quick. She made her name is Ann. She says, yes, people, always put against each other in those football games. Well, Keith, that's just a sport. You think it's just a sport? You go find 2 rival teams playing a game and see what happens. You go look at the Democrats and the Republicans and look out in the world and see what's happening. These people are pitted against each other, and they're almost acting as if they will kill for it. That they will literally take it to the level of, their brother has a different viewpoint, and they're saying the Democrats and the libtards and the Republicans. It's like, what childish freaking ways of being are these people? It's people just coming at each other. And so the reason I interrupted you was because like you said, the American Indians are living in the future. They're living 7 generations ahead. Why should you and I give a shit? Because when we lay this body down, it's done. Okay, well, maybe I should at least give a shit not only for my children, but maybe my grandchildren. Maybe give a little bit less of a shit for their children, and then I'm done. I'm gone. Well, there's something innate in you and me, and many people who are firing up and illuminating. There is a sense of a mission. And we can't stop it that says you have to think not only 7 generations ahead, but you have to be a facilitator of the fate of humanity, even if it's 1,000 years hence. That is alive in you. That is alive in me. That is alive in many of we. But most people who go to those football games in the Roman Colosseum, they just don't give a shit. It's about winning the game, and they want to grab as much as they possibly can before they exit.
All right, so let's go back to love, because love is the answer, right? And we know that, but let's get there from the bad place we're at, right? So all of our systems right now are failing, all of them. I mean, think about them. Politics are failing, right? The financial system used to be based on gold. Now it's based on consumer confidence. You should buy more, right? You should want more. Here's a loan, and banks make money, the imaginary money. There is no money. It's just imaginary money off of debt that they create. Look up fractional reserve banking and you'll be infuriated. It's like, wow, we live in a place where money is infinite debt, right? So we talked about those 4 world problems. Ecology. So we're treating this planet as if it's it's unlimited, yet it's infinite, yet it's finite. And we're running out of resources. We're killing species. We're in the 6th mass extinction right now, right? So that's ecology. Then number 2, there's 4 of them. Economies and the other one, where we just spoke a little bit about the money in fractional reserve banking and the banking cartels. And look at your dollar bills. It says Federal Reserve Note. So there's a group of wealthy people that are a family that own all of the U.S. money debt. They are about as federal as Federal Express. The Federal Reserve is not a U.S. corporation. It's owned by individuals. So they own the debt. Some families own the debt on all the money that goes through the U.S., you know? So that's a whole nother insane thing. Look that one up, right? So ecology, economy, war is the other one, that we base our entire system on war. Have you noticed, please look this one up too. Over the last, since 1776, how many years has the U.S. been at peace? I think it's been about 10 years out of that 250 years, 230, 40 years or whatever it is, 43 years. It's insane that we've only been at peace for about 10 years of the 200 and some years. And some of those years were under this guy named Jimmy Carter, who's still alive and still doing good deeds every day. And that dude didn't shoot a bullet, didn't drop a bomb for 4 years, and they made fun of him. And so who took over? And we've had war ever since, the war economy, you know? And so we've been at war. We're the bully. What does the U.S. build besides guns, bombs, chemical weapons, debt? I mean, what do we do? What are we building? You know, service industry? I mean, it's really weird, right? So let's keep going. So ecology, economy, war, and then this last one called isms. I call it isms. It's like racism, religion, sexual preference, whatever it is. It's just hatred because someone's unlike me. So if someone's got a different color skin, I should hate them. If someone's from a different country, I should hate them. And
if they're Democrat, I should hate them. If they're Republican, I should hate them. You know, I did a presentation the other night. I called it political racism, because just because you hate a group of people because they're black, white, yellow, green, red, we call that racism. Well, that is no different than what's happening in the political field. What's happening in the political arena, you got Republicans calling people libtards. That's like calling someone a nigger or a wetback or a kike or a cracker. Because it's not the word, it's just a vibration, a whole bunch of letters together. It's the intention and the nastiness you putting behind calling someone a libtard or a Democrat or a nigger or a cracker or a wetback or a spick or a kike. It's all the same ridiculous nonsense of hatefulness.
So ecology, economy, war, and then personal preferences, isms, right? So let's look at those. What causes all those problems are all the same things. It's a cluster of things that causes every one of those problems. Ignorance is one. You're like, ignorance is why little kids don't come out of the womb having anger and hatred and racism. That's not it, right? They don't have that. They don't have greed. In fact, there are tribes that have no greed. Like they have a race. We're trying to get all the kids to compete, and when the first kid gets there, he immediately shares the prize with everybody else. It's like, so I've seen that with other societies. Because I've traveled with indigenous societies, and in some of these societies that they aren't so financial or so physical stuff consuming rich. They just give away everything they have because it doesn't matter to them to have this. It's just a thing, What they have is happiness and joy. So let's go back. So what causes all those problems? Ignorance causes, we're here. We have ecology, economy, war, and isms. Ecology, economy, war, and isms. Caused by ignorance causes all those. Greed causes all those. Fear causes all those. We're afraid, right? We're afraid, I need more money. I need. You lack, right? Ignorance, greed, fear, and then these patterns of old, or these powers of old, these patterns of old that we've always done things this way. This is the way it's always worked. This is how education happens. Well, take a look back. Our education system actually hasn't been always happening this way. This has been put into place for the Industrial Revolution. So we had all right. So ignorance, greed, fear, and the powers of old. And so let's look at those. What cures fear? Love. What cures ignorance? Well, information and love, because you have to be willing to listen to that information and understand it and digest it. Right? Love. What cures greed? Well, most greedy people actually are seeking some level of acceptance and connection. And so when you give them love, they get what they need. They're getting more. They're greedy because, like the billionaires, if we had someone that hoarded toilet paper and filled the whole living room up with toilet paper, we'd call them a hoarder. Well, what about these guys that hoard billions and billions of dollars they couldn't spend in 1,000 lifetimes, right? Isn't that a mental illness? Isn't that a mental, all right? So ignorance, greed, fear, and then these patterns of old. Well, we've always done it this way. No, we haven't. If you look at the powers of old, those old powers, the richest few, we've got like 6 men right now on the planet, and many of them are U.S. citizens, that own the same amount of wealth as half of the world, right? So it's crazy that I mean, if you look at economic disparity, I remember when I first heard of Bernie Sanders, he said, there are 65 people on the planet that have the same wealth as half the planet. Now it's down to 6. I've heard his message that long. And it's only been like 5 years or 7 years now that he's been given that same message. It's crazy, right? So it's sad because these billionaires who have enough money for thousands of lifetimes, they couldn't possibly spend it in that much in 1,000 lifetimes, they won't pay minimum wage. They won't take care of
what about
people. They get away with no taxes and subsidies.
What about Jeff Bezos from Amazon?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's the richest man in the world. He's a gazillion, capillion, whatever. Let's make up a word. An heir he is, and he pays no taxes. Nothing.
He needs some love. If he had a wonderful woman come love him in the right way and really appreciate him in the right way, and he could probably start to see that the world could use him, that dude could be Batman. He could be Batman for the
Seriously.
world. He could cure world hunger. He could give clean water to the world. He could make it so that we aren't stressed. Now, look at what he's doing behind the scenes. And many of these billionaires are doing this. Let me get into this for a minute, okay, if you don't mind. Because it both pisses me off and excites me, because they're just like we were talking about these spiritual people that are talking about the power of intention and manifestation. Well, they got it wrong. They're doing it from their head. They're not doing it from their heart. The heart is the real leader, letting the heart take lead. And so that's the little element that we have to add to all those spiritual principles, right? So now let's go to some of these billionaires. They're talking about, we can save the world. We're going to go to Mars. You spend the same amount of money you're trying to go to Mars with on people now, we can change things. So there was a guy named Buckminster Fuller, which was a new thought leader. And in this 1960s, he was saying this. Back 50 years ago, he was saying that we had the ability 50 years ago to automate and robotize most of the drudgery on this planet. That we could, instead of people getting jobs to do drudgery, and most people now have jobs that they're in a managerial job, managing people that are doing drudgery. Or there's sometimes people that are managing the managers doing the drudgery. Or there's some people that are making little inspector items that inspect the people doing the drudgery. It's crazy. So we've got people doing drudgery and addicted to the system that is dragging us down into this unhappiness. So what Buckminster Fuller said was that we have the ability to get beyond all that. In fact, let me bring up the quote of Buckminster Fuller's exact quote, but that we can get beyond. Here, Buckminster Fuller quote. Buckminster Fuller quotes. Almost. Buckminster Fuller. Because I'd like to do it justice here. I'm sorry about this. Actually, there's several that are fantastic. It is highly feasible to take care of everybody on the planet at a higher standard of living than any have ever known. Once again, it is now highly feasible to take care of everybody on Earth at a higher standard of living than any have ever known. It no longer has to be you or me. Selfishness is unnecessary. War is obsolete. And it's a matter of converting the high technology that we have from weaponry to livingry. And he also said things like, pollution was just an untapped natural resource. It was potential energy. So then he also said, so we're having people do that now. And you spoke earlier about Fukushima. I heard this week that they have invented a laser that offers a vibration of frequency to this nuclear waste that has a 10,000-year half-life, 10,000-year half-life. And in minutes, the laser can decontaminate that nuclear waste to a level that is acceptable and no longer going to kill us for 10,000 years.
I just watched, I'm a fan of Gaia TV. I just watched this series I've been watching for years, Cosmic Disclosure, disclosing the UFO phenomenon. And I recently watched an interview with Randy Kramer, military guy, Marine sergeant. He been off world on Mars and I mean, you can look at these two people and say they're not crafting this, they're not inventing this. This guy was a military guy. And 20 years and back, he would go through these wormholes and end up on off planet. But he said exactly what you said. He says, we have the technology now. We have been given via extraterrestrials that what they can do, they can take radiation in seawater. This is what he said. We can take radiation in seawater, and with this laser, we create the vibrational harmonic of perfect seawater and immediately obliterates the gamma ray radiation nuclear waste that is polluting the Pacific Ocean via Fukushima. We have the technology, so the question simply becomes, all right, okay, Keith, Brian, we believe you have the technology. Why are they not implementing? Why do these people, do they not have the feeling capacity? They're living in the mind? Do they have that compassion?
Love.
They just
Love.
don't give it. They just don't give a shit.
When you're greedy, you don't have love.
No.
You don't love anybody. You know. All right. So if I don't have any self-love, I'm not going to take care of anybody else. I don't care about anybody else. I'm just me, right? So once I actually have self-love and there's an evolution in consciousness inside of me, my own self-peace becomes world peace, because I start helping the world. I start caring for the world just because I started caring for myself. So if you're physically or mentally or spiritually out of whack, what good are you to the world? You know, take care of yourself. Get a tune-up. When I say there's a woman for, you know, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk that could literally change the course of humanity, there is. Teach him how to love. Teach him how to not live in fear. Let's go to Mars. Let's hoard money. Like the Jeff Bezos thing, doesn't want to pay minimum wage. People are living in their cars, just working full time there. It's, you know, crazy, you know, that we treat, and he's got robots everywhere. So it's exactly what's going on here. Buckminster Fuller saying we can robotize and make, like right now, we can have our food grown mostly indoors with less water than we do outside, and obviously less pest because we're enclosed, and do it with robots and computers and whatever else, all monitoring, and even light it with LED lights that are low energy and solar power on the roof that power the lights. And so it does it basically grow your food for free with robots, right? And all those people that used to grow food can go home and spend 40 hours a week on higher spiritual matters. But in order to do that, the whole system has to change, right? And that's just the food system. Then there's many systems in place, you know, and those rich few holding all the money want to keep us enslaved to the system because they make more money. Well, what we just said was, if I hoarded toilet paper in this house, you would think I was something sick and wrong with me. Well, what are these billionaires hoarding money and needing more money and keeping the system from changing? So we can offer through love to change the system. And it might be that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos' kids dig it. They get what Greta's saying. They get the future of humanity. They can feel it, right? And these kids are like, Dad, you're fucking up. You know, you don't have to go there. We can do better. You know, we can feed some people. You can be Batman, Dad. You can change the world, right? And so the call is for the kids that are getting it because they feel it, because they came in with the feeling, right? A lot of these autistic kids, we used to call them indigo kids. They had special powers. Well, really look at some of these kids. Greta herself has got autism. Some of them have amazing ability of sensitivity and awareness of senses that we don't even know. We're like, oh, you know, there's the 5 senses and this is how we do things, you know? No, there's like 15 senses that if you look at science, there are things that we can't sense. Like right now you have a Wi-Fi device sitting right near you, right? Mm-hmm. And that Wi-Fi is putting out electromagnetic energy. Your body might not be able to feel it, but your cells do, right? These autistic kids might feel it, you know?
And Brian, so we call them autistic kids. It's because they're operating on levels that the norm does not. They're operating beyond the five senses, like you said. So they must not be balanced. So they have an ism, they have an autism, or they have ADD or ADHD. And so we give them a label, and then we shove drugs down their throat to shut off those centers, those pathways that is their connection to the divine,
the feeling,
the feeling, to be that child of light, to come here and make a difference, and a little child shall lead them. Even the president or whoever whatever the head knucklehead guy is for Big Pharma says, we are not in business to cure people. That is not what our shareholders care about. We're in this for our shareholders to make money.
But you just look at our entire system. Now, this is the blue team or the red team. And look back. Look at what Obama did, what Bush did, what Clinton before him, and what the other Bush, and, what Reagan did. Look at all those guys. Look at who they put in charge of the Food and Drug Administration. Look at some of those guys. They're all guys from the biggest chemical companies in the world. And just recently, in the last 3 years, we had 6 of the largest chemical companies that make all of our food and drugs. Look at the food label. It's not like when we were growing up. The food labels have a whole series of words you cannot pronounce. You don't need all those chemicals in there. Well, they're cheap, and we make lots of profit. Well, we don't care if it makes you sick, because the sickness you have can be cured by our drug company's drugs, and we own the drug company too. So the largest chemical company, those 6 large chemical companies went down to 3, doubled up, merger. And the ugliest ones were Monsanto. Monsanto owns 90% of the seeds on the planet. They patented the little seeds. And what happened was they made it so that you can genetically modify these 2 seeds together and then patent it and make it profitable. Patenting nature. So what they've done, we used to have hundreds of strains of corn. And, I'm from where there are lots of cows and lots of corn, from Maryland, originally from there. And I was back with my parents, and my parents were like, isn't it great? Look how big the corn is. It's never been bigger. I'm like, look at the soil. Look at what's gone on. The soil used to be 2 feet deep, and now it's gone down to like little crap. And it's just, well, if you put oil on in chemicals all over the soil, eventually the soil erodes and goes down to nothing. And it also kills, the chemical they put on kills bugs by getting in their digestive system and making the bugs explode. And then it kills the bacteria too, right? Well, guess what? That same chemical that kills the bugs by making their digestive system explode, well, that same chemical is on the food. And then we eat it. Did you notice that all the men are pregnant looking? Every man looks like they're 9 months pregnant, right? It's crazy. And when we were growing up, look back at any video or photos of sporting events when we were kids, or any crowd of people. They were not fat. People were healthy and in good shape. The fat kid, when I was growing up in my high school and middle school, the fat kid now wouldn't even be considered fat. Oh, that's normal. He's healthy. Like, what? It's so weird, right? That we've made these chemicals the winner, right? So the Food and Drug Administration is run by the former heads of these companies. Look it up. FDA is Monsanto. Clarence Thomas, he's on the Supreme Court. He was a lawyer for Monsanto. I think, I won't get into too many other politicians, because I could go off and slam the Democrats and slam the Republicans in equal ways. I actually have a side site on Facebook that I get my bitching out about politics, but with a site that's called Both parties suck. Both
Yeah.
parties suck. Because, part of this awakening is for us to see that we're in this game, and we're part of the game. If we choose one or either of the sides, we're not looking up. It's called the oligarchy. The richest few own everything. They own the news,
All
all
of
the
it.
media, the news, the movies that are played. They own the books, the newspapers, the radio stations, so they can control your mind and what you're thinking. They own the colleges and support the drug companies, hire the colleges and give them money, right?
But Brian, but
To
people
do
would say,
studies to make the efficacy of this seem right. And if it doesn't seem right, they throw away the study. They don't publish the bad study. Oh, it was wrong and this is a bad drug. So all those drugs that have been recalled, if you look down the list of all the drugs recalled by the FDA, they were all approved by the FDA. So were they ever
Correct.
tested? No.
correct.
So do you think your flu vaccine that's out right now has been tested? Look it up. No, they don't test it. Most of the time,
You are the test.
I think last year the
You
flu
are the
vaccine
test.
worked supposedly 20% of the time. But most of the time what it does is gives you the flu. How it works is it gives you the flu, you get sick for a couple weeks, and then you don't get the flu bigger later. Well, you can just go do that right now. Go to a local restaurant that's got a smorgasbord and find a snot-nosed kid, and then whatever he eats, pick up the spoon right after him and eat, and then you've given yourself a vaccine. You'll get sick for about a week with a little minor sickness, right? And then you'll be fine. Or go to the elementary school and touch all the doorknobs, and you'll get sick,
And Brian, there's a law that, for example, let's say John Doe is a farmer. John Doe has a pretty big farm, and he's growing this whatever crop. And downwind, or upwind rather, downwind, there's a Monsanto farm. If John Doe's farm, if there's found a seed or a plant because of the wind, or a bird poops and grows a crop on John Doe's farm, and they find out, Monsanto can seize John Doe's farm hands down. Hands down. And if you was to take two pieces of corn, put one on a tree, grown from John Doe, and one grown from Monsanto, the squirrels will eat the natural corn, and they won't even touch the other corn. They just won't do it.
Oh, I agree. So that paradigm that you just talked about suing farmers went on for probably 20 or more years. Maybe see what happened was, if you look back at irritable bowel syndrome, when irritable bowel syndrome, when we finally came up with a name for it. Well, when did that disease finally show up? Well, that disease showed up after they made it legal to do this Roundup on a genetically modified seed that was modified to be resistant to Roundup. And the first one they genetically modified was corn, and then they did wheat, and then they did cotton. So if you look at clothes that were before 1995, roughly, the cotton feels different. If you've got something old, touch it, and you'll go, that's cotton? Wow, it's awesome. It's so high quality. All the cotton now is made from this genetically modified seed. I've seen these autistic kids, you put a piece of clothing on, and they can feel the chemicals in the clothing, and they're like, ah! I used to go into the shopping centers, and I'd walk into a certain shopping center, into a department store with certain clothes, and the chemicals would hit me. And it's like, get me out of here. The fluorescent lights and the chemicals would just hit me. It's like, get me out of here. I couldn't handle it. I don't want to go shopping, right? I couldn't. So anyway, the chemicals from all of that, the resistant crop, gets into our food and gets into our stomach, and then it creates disease. Because once again, what we talked about was frequency. The emotions mix with the disease, uneasiness, and it creates illness. Well, then they give other chemicals. The same chemical companies that own the food company own the drug company. Bayer and Monsanto joined up. DuPont and not Dow, DuPont and another one together. There's six that merged to three, and it all just recently happened. And so the one world government is one corporation's governments. If you, I mean, we don't need a government. We have corporations doing it for us. So look at the billionaires, and it's a club, and you're not invited, right? And
yeah, George, what's his name? George Carlin says it's a big club, and you're not in it.
You're not in it.
You're just not in it. And
so back to love. Take us back to love, because it's really the solutions are love. So we get those billionaires to start loving each other and start seeing the future. Their kids, their grandkids. I'm praying that the grandkids of all these billionaires can wake them up, because all these problems that we have, war, ecology, economy, racism, it's all an evolution of consciousness. This is not save the planet. It's fix ourselves and everyone around us, our community, our society has to change. And when our society change, we can change the planet. We can change society. But all of the systems are failing right now, all of them. And so here's another Buckminster Fuller quote. I got two more to go. Here's one. He says, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. You change something. To change something, you build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." So that's what we have to do. And so these kids are thinking up these ideas. Have you seen these kids that are like fixing all the plastics that are floating in the oceans, or they're creating cures for disease and other things that like didn't previously exist? These are kids with no college experience. Yet
I just saw an article of this young black girl. I want to emphasize young minority, black minority, girl minority, young black girl. She is the only person as a teenager who has 3 books that she's written that are used in the public school system. So these young indigo, crystal, rainbow avatars, the messiahship of the Christ office, are showing up as to why, again, I think children are being targeted, some by people who are so maniacal and so conscious and plugged into that energy, they consciously are targeting children, and some are targeting children because of profit, and they're just a bunch of freaking knuckleheads and assholes who are harming kids. But Brian, the whole Monsanto thing, the Dow thing, they're in the business for the money. They're here to take care of their shareholders, and
our government's in the pocket of that. Remember, they made
they are the Congress. Big Pharma is Congress.
And they made people corporations. They switched our rights. You look at your names in all capital letters on all your official documents. You're
right. You're important.
You're owned. You're owned. Look that one up. But now let's go back to love, right? So here's what Buckminster Fuller says: quite clearly, our task is predominantly metaphysical. It's spiritual, and for it is how to get all of humanity to educate itself swiftly enough to generate spontaneous social behaviors that will avoid extinction. And that's where we're at. We're at the 6th mass extinction. So when Greta says, "How dare you guys keep kicking the can down the road? This has been 25 years of you having meetings to talk about eventually working on the environment. Enough of this already. We are in the 6th mass extinction. We're losing 150 to 200 plants and species per day. There's no more. All of our leaders, including these corporation CEOs and heads that are billionaires and sick, literally sick, they're, hoarding money. All those people will be dead in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And who cares about their grandkids, right? Yet they could have been Batman now. So I'm praying that these grandkids and these kids and you and I can inspire them to stand up and get off the couch, turn off the TV. Who gives a crap about football? And get 100,000 people every Sunday to cheer on whatever it is to fix the environment and get off the couch and do something. Clean up the beaches. Have you seen these, like a 75-year-old grandmother cleaning up the beach, and she's done like 50 so far this year, you know? Get off the couch and go clean up your neighborhood. Yeah, I told you about Juteska cleaning up the river right there going through Boulder, Colorado, and just did it in, it's like 30 minutes with his friends, and they had fun. And, they were prepared. Bags, rubber gloves, did it all. Then they took it all to recycling. It was amazing. They were separating his, putting it in. It was like, what conscious kids? And no one taught them this. This is like, they could feel it. We need to do this, And they weren't doing it for the camera. They were doing it because it's right. And they could feel it. It's the ethics. That's the love. They have the love for the planet, and they have love for the future of society, humanity, evolving humanity. Yeah.
Brian, my tummy is starting to call to me. We got 10 minutes. We've been going at it almost 3 hours, my bro.
Oh, we're always doing that. We should do this every night.
I was thinking about that. I think you and I should have a date night at least every other month.
Yeah.
At least. I got other things, but and I want to talk with you offline soon about maybe some plans to come to California and get in front of your golden microphone and make some noise with some of your players and show me around what's happening in California. Show me what it's like to be Brian.
The music is not better here. The music is not better. In fact, even if you come out here and there's nothing to do with music, I want you to sit at the ocean and stare out as the sun set over the ocean and feel the sun connect to you. All right? While the sun's setting, stare into that sun and then feel the water grabbing your feet and connecting you down to the earth. The water sucking you into the ground, every wave, right? And then I want you to feel the wind blowing in your face. Fire, the sunshine, water, air, and earth, all connecting to you at the same time on that ocean. And I want you to just feel that energy. Now realize it's salt water, and you're like a battery. And you're made of the same thing of the salt of the ocean, right? And that energy, when it hits you and connects that way, you're going to go, I love California. It's not the music. It's this energy right there. And that's where all this free thought and open-mindedness, and it's not just California. You go the whole way to the tip of Baja and the whole way up to Alaska. That sunset and that ocean's hitting all those people all along the coast. Go to Seattle, go to Vancouver, go to San Diego, and they're all standing on the beach at sunset, watching it fall and feeling that energy. You can feel them, right? And when you connect into the sun, the air, the earth, and the water all at the same time, that's what you're made of. You're made of all those same chemicals. H2O is hydrogen and oxygen. The breath of air from the oxygen and the hydrogen is explosive. You get that in you, and you get the balanced, you'll turn on. And then you'll start finding your own sacred space that you can connect to all those fire, water, air, and earth all year around. I used to get depressed, seasonal depression disorder, on the East Coast in Maryland and then in Tennessee when I lived there. And I would have to escape to Florida. And I would go to the sunshine and just stare at the sun. And I don't know if you notice, I've got a little sunshine here, Every day here, I go to my backyard right on the other side of that wall, and I sit and stare at the sun. 20 minutes, right? And I don't get a sunburn, but what I do is I connect and I do eye exercises and connect to the sun and raise my frequency to that of the sun. So the sun itself is raising its energy.
So you're doing at least some part of breatharianism or sun gazing. So you're actually taking in the sun for, not just because I want to get brown, you're taking in the sun for nourishment.
Yeah. So matching my frequency. So the sun itself, I mean, if you look back on 2012 and the Mayans, well, what the real information was there's a 26,000 year cycle. And if you look at the yugas in India, they actually have like 150,000 year cycle. I mean, we're in the West here. It's taught that, Jesus was born in the year 0, and then 2,000 years later, that's the history of humanity. No, it goes back for frickin' ever. It's crazy. So if they knew there was a 26,000 year cycle, the Mayans, well, the Hindus blew them away with like 156,000 year cycle or something. Anyway, whatever the number was, look up the yugas, look up the Mayan calendar and the cycle. And what it is those cycles have to do with the sun too. That's one part of it. And so the sun's frequency is raising, and with that raises consciousness. Consciousness is raising. The consciousness of the plants and the animals are raising. They're becoming more aware, more tuned in, more adaptable, right? And so we are too. So you have to raise your frequency with the light of the sun. And if you connect to the sun, like here, tomorrow they take away, it's daylight savings time, and they take it away. And the reason we take it away at the front and not the back is because the farmers need to wake up early. That's bullshit. Farmers wake up when the animals wake up, right? They don't look at a clock. They hear the chickens and the cows, and then they wake up and go take care of stuff, right? Well, they take it away at the end, so we don't get to watch the sunset because you're driving home when it's already dark. So it depresses you, and it freaks you out. Well, this is part of the whole, beyond the Mayan calendar, we had the Gregorian calendar, and just like we had the Bible written by the King James Bible, we also had the Gregorian calendar, King Gregory. And you look into that thing, and it's Moon Day, Monday, right? Moon Day. Ooh. And a month, Moonth, month, right? And the cycle of part of the Mayan calendar is the moon cycles every 28 days and a little bit, right? So with that cycle, you get a full moon. Well, that's the beginning of the next month when the full moon is, right? We should be following that. That's what the old calendar used to be. Every time there's a full moon, there's a new moon. Yeah, that's the new month. That's how you count the months. And you count 28 days, right? Multiplied by 13 full moons in a year. What do you get? 364. Oh, okay. And then there's this day they call the day out of time. 365. Okay. Well then, so we follow this weird little cycle, and the Gregory calendar, the Gregorian calendar, made us confused. 28 days, 29, 30, 31, blah, and so we're not connected to where we should have. If you study the Mayan calendar, they connect. They connect to the feeling. You can study a guy named Jose Aguirres who did a bastardized version of the Mayan calendar, and that'll get you interested, and then you can get to the real one. But there's definitely other cultures that have done the study work to connect into the feeling of the planet every day. Listen to the astrologers. All the astrologers are talking right now is ripe time, starting today, was all ripe time. And all of us dealing with our crap, and evolving beyond our old patterns. So that ultimately my passion is to help people evolve beyond their old pattern and into a new version of themselves, and yours too. So when you come here, I don't want you to come here with this dream and vision of being the greatest bass player in the world, because I don't think playing bass is what you're limited to. I think you're
I don't have that dream. I don't have that dream because I know I'm the greatest bass player in the world. So that
yeah. But and I'm more humble than you. By the way.
Right.
Yeah. But it's for real. I really expect that you will come out here and have a whole different view on what you're doing in your life.
I would love that.
That's what I want to offer you is to break out of the cul-de-sac in the neighborhood you're in and see with new eyes who you might be and what connections you might have. There might be a hidden dream that you have that hasn't even surfaced yet. And this, LA will beat you up. Generally what happens in LA is, I was the greatest singer in elementary school, and then I was the greatest singer in high school, and yay, and then I went off to college and to my little college, and they told me I was the greatest singer, and now I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to be the greatest singer in the world, right? Or whatever their dream is, right? And they get here, or they go, I'm the greatest actor, or whatever, right? And they show up here, and there's a call for acting, right? And the first day they go to the audition, there's 400 people in line that are taller, thinner, prettier, with a better resume, better voice, better acting credentials, whatever it is, better talent. And they show up and they get their dream busted. And they either go home with the tail between their legs and say, it's horrible there, or they work through the crisis, the problem, and they stand on their own. And there's little guys like Danny DeVito. I mean, that guy should never have been an actor. He's a fantastic actor, but you're not tall enough. He's a fantastic actor. He didn't do it on his looks. He did it on his ability to share and to be funny and be cool and be interesting. Look at all the great actors. I mean, they aren't the prettiest and smartest. Same with the singers. They have passion, they have drive, they have excitement, they have the spirit, and they have something to share. And you have that. You wouldn't be doing this every night unless you have something to share. And I can see you sharing in a huge way to a grander audience in ways that you can't even imagine right now. And so listen to your spirit, because I think if you really, really listen, you'll be guided on how you can help billions, because you're rich. You're a billionaire. You just don't have the money yet, and you'll do the right thing with all your powers,
You are a very wise individual. Take your kudos. Don't come at me on offering you some blessings and some gravy for your biscuit. You are a very wise, experienced, connected friend. You're connected, bro, and I love listening to you.
Yeah.
You inspire me. And I want to come out there and spend time with you. I'm open to the idea of just going there with no agenda, but I do want to sit in your studio and record something. Other than that, take me to your favorite spots. Show me what it's like to be, an offshoot of Brian Hardin, and what's your thing? That's really what I want. As I said earlier, I want to know what it's like to be you, to follow you to your special locations while you live your special life, so I could see what it's like to be with someone who I've admired since I've known you.
I can do that also in Memphis and Nashville, but most of those will end up just getting drunk and passing out on the couch.
So that's why you moved away.
Oh, believe it or not, I moved to LA and I sobered up and cleaned everything up, and it's like, man, LA, you got to get your hustle on. You gotta tune in, because there's so many opportunities to get drowned here, and to get taken over, to get drowned, to get in the wrong frequency. And so you either tune up or you go home. Like I had a friend who was an alcoholic, and after sending him through rehab a couple times, guess where he moves? New Orleans, where everybody's an alcoholic. It's normal to be an alcoholic in New Orleans, right? Everybody drives drunk. It's totally fine, right? So he was happy there because, if you're a pig, go to where the pigs hang out, right? And no one noticed that you smell bad, right? So at some point, you have an opportunity to raise your frequency, and and I don't know how it's going to happen. And I'm not saying the LA is the answer. It just was the answer for me because of, once again, that sunshine, the fresh air, the water, and just connecting fire, water, air, and earth. Yeah.
Thank you, bro. Let's do this again.
Cool. All right.
I really enjoyed it, man. I just get keyed up and I get lost, and I can feel California already. So I'm gonna inquire my teacher, my son, and ask him. Let me ask you quickly. Just give me a short answer. What is a good time for me to go? Is it next month, month after next?
All right. So think about this. It's horrible to try to pay for a plane ticket in November and December. Just horrible, stupid. They crank up all the prices, right? So when I got seasonal depression disorder, what happened was in fact, this is what everybody's going to do right now. We just had candy season, right? That Halloween was All Hallowed Eve, right? It was for us to honor our ancestors. But what happened? It got took over by the candy corporations, right? And they somehow injected candy as the big deal, right? And not honoring our ancestors, right? So then we just had that, and then we had Thanksgiving, and everybody's going to fatten up on sugar, and they're going to fatten up on lots of gross food, right? It's delicious, but you eat it every day, and everybody's going to fatten up in December, right? And then January 1st, everybody's going to say, okay, I've got these grandiose ideas of everything I'm going to do. And they're going to go join the gym. They're going to go join the gym and pay the year's thing and then go 3 times and never go back again, right? Because they don't follow through. And then they'll go lay on the couch and watch the rest of the football season, right? And then get fat. And then so all that, I'd get seasonal depression disorder in January and February. That's when the plane tickets are cheap. So find out when your son has got a weekend, one of those extra long weekends, and you'll find 2 tickets for the price of 1. Bring him 2 and have a really interesting experience, you know? Yeah, that could happen. Because it's cheap flying in January and February. And you'll be totally sick and tired of everything going on. You'll be ready for some sunshine, you know? I had some Canadian friends of mine come down here on New Year's Day. We went out to the ocean. We decided to meditate just, 30 feet away from the water and listening to the ocean. And there's a group of us meditating. And this girl says, before we dropped into meditation, I sure wish we could see some dolphins. So why don't you guys meditate on dolphins while you're meditating? It wasn't maybe 30 minutes. We're all in meditation. One of us wakes up and yells, "Dolphins!" They were right there. There was a huge pot of dolphins right there in front of us, and we all got up and chased them down the ocean, watching them. It was fantastic, So it's crazy what you can manifest when you're in tune with everything. And it was 80 degrees that day, and it was snowing. There was a blizzard back on the East Coast, so they were in heaven, Alberta, Canada.
Brian, this reminds me, before I let you go, there's this young girl, or still is, but some years ago, in fact, Dr. Wayne Dyer talked about her, Nepal, somewhere across the world, that it was very well known, and people from all over the world would come to visit this little girl who was known and was famous for summoning the whales. So one day in an interview, they asked her, how do you call the whales? People have come to you for many years because it's known that you are able to bring the whales. How do you do that? She says, I just fall inside of myself to the space we all speak the same language.
All right, so there's a Native American woman named Doreen Spence, and I didn't know who she was until she literally knocked on my door right here. She knocked on my door. A friend of mine says, I'm going to send my teacher to you. I didn't know. And so like a week later, this lady knocks at the door, and I answer the door like, hey, can I help you? She said, yeah, is Brian there? And so she comes in and she sits down, and I find out she's Native American. Well, it turns out she wrote the rights of indigenous people for United Nations. This was an amazing Native American grandmother. And once that's revealed, it's like, wow, that's incredible. We should do ceremony at the beach. She goes, yeah, I just came from the beach. I just did ceremony on Venice Beach because that's where the taxi cab took me. And while I was doing ceremony, I was saying prayers for the whales, and a whale pops up and blows out the spout, and kept doing that while I was doing the prayers. It's like, so you can connect. I mean, I traveled with the Hopi Indians, and I've seen it with my own eyes and have it on video camera. They do prayers in the middle of the summer when there's no rain at all on Hopi. They do prayers and dances for rain in the hottest part of the desert summer, and rain will come. And then in the wintertime, they've got a thing called the bean dance, and they do prayers and dances, and it snows. Well, every time I've been there, it rains when they dance, and it snows when they dance. And so you can summit it. And so that magic nation, the nation we envision, the life we envision, the humanity, that evolution that we envision, We can envision it. So we have to work together. This evolution in consciousness is helping. You are in control of helping consciousness wake up to a higher level in a big, big way. That's your responsibility. And it's your ability to respond. And you can do it. And I believe in you. And I know that's your gift. You know, playing bass, yeah, you're great at. But you'll still do that. And same thing with me and the engineering and the music. It's all easy. I mean, I do it with my eyes closed, like fast. What used to take hours or days, now I do it in minutes. How do you do that? Well, how I do it is I connect to my heart. You don't play bass from your head anymore. That stopped 20 years ago, you know? And so these kids are like, well, give me the YouTube video, the 3-minute YouTube video on how I can mix a record like you. There is no 3. You got to spend the 10,000 hours. You got to do it from your heart. You got to feel it. You got to connect to it. And, you know, all the music sounds the same these days.
And it's really not about learning the instrument. It may seem like you're learning the instrument, but it's about getting to know yourself.
Yeah.
Because the instrument is just an extension of yourself. So it's really about making love to yourself, massaging yourself, basically spiritually masturbating yourself into a zone. We talked about a zone. In fact, before we shut off, Brian, I want to find that what I said I was going to find about the zone. So if you would leave the audience with something in closing while I find this poem that I wrote about
should I just do
getting in the zone. And we
were
were talking about the race car drivers and shifting into the zone. But talk about whatever you like while I find this. I'm going to be right back.
So should I just do a improvisational dance or something? Okay.
Whatever you like.
Oh, I know what, here's, we talked about love. Love is the answer. And so all those problems of the world, ecology, economy, war, and isms, and so whatever those problems are caused by ignorance, greed, fears, and then these patterns of old or powers of old. It's, we've always done things this way, right? Or we're afraid of things, money, we need more money. Well, no, so when we start thinking of we instead of just me, we start to change. So evolution of consciousness is from me, and greed and hoarding to we. And how do we create a society that will take care of the next 7 generations and look that far down the road, and not do it from a place of ignorance, greed, fears, or these patterns of old. This used to work, to dominate and guns and bombs. War is obsolete, and hate is obsolete, and fear is obsolete. We can evolve by seeing that everyone has the same needs and wants. We all want the same. We want security, we want food, we want a community, we want dance, we want to care and share and love each other. We want to raise our offspring and take care of a lineage and leave something behind. We all want the same stuff. Doesn't matter where you're at, what religion, right? So love is the answer to all those ignorance, greed, fears, and the powers of old. Love. So how we do that is start looking at all those distant future. Start caring for one another. Start seeing ourselves as a circle, as this world is actually quite small. It's not this us against them. It's that we together need to take care of those 150 to 200 plant and animal species that are dying each day. We're in the 6th mass extinction, and this isn't a money thing. This is like reality thing. I mean, just turn on any science. Look at NASA. But it's part of it is that light of the sun is changing. It's changing. The frequency is changing. And, sure, it might be that the sun itself is warming the planet, and we go through these cycles of warming and cooling. Just because you stop and say, oh, well, it's not gas and oil that are doing it, well, they're also contributing, and they are also contributing. It might be that the sun's doing it, or whatever else, but they're contributing. So think about, you talked about aliens and stuff. Ooh. Well, dude, there are trillions of planets out there. Trillions. And to think that we're the only planet with living life on it is insane. Do that research too. And so to know that there are other species off planet that are capable of traveling here. And yeah, and do they have to be 6 foot tall and white, red, yellow, or black? No, they might be a virus. They might be a cloud. I don't know how they show up. I don't, it's bizarre. I mean, we can't even imagine what other creatures could be, but they're not all 6 foot tall white guys, right? And so with that, if you were another species watching our planet, like these guys are they're in literally an unremarkable part of the entire universe. Look at our little solar system's way off on this edge. There's not much traffic going by here. If you really look at how it's all set up, we're way off in the distance, And just like, where you live, you've got an anthill way off in the distance in that cow field way over there. Well, you don't pay much attention to that anthill, but if the anthill's right outside of your front door, you're going to pay attention to it, right? So no one's traveled to our little anthill that much, right? And when they see our anthill, they're like, these ants are unevolved. These guys are still killing each other. They're still fighting. They're still following this crazy money system that has no value. They're still drudgery, enslaved to a financial system that has no value. Like, what are they doing? Why aren't they on spiritual matters? So really, you and I have to dedicate our lives to helping spiritual evolution of people so that they become more conscious, so that they can connect to the solutions for the rest of humanity. And that's love. And so everything you have to say, center of light, we're made of light. It's love. And love is light, And it all sounds all hippie and airy-fairy, but once you start doing it, everything's contagious. If I challenge you to go out tomorrow, or everybody to go out tomorrow and smile. Just smile at someone. And just give them a big goofy smile. And guess what you get back? A big goofy smile back. It's all contagious. Laughter is contagious. Love's contagious. Fear is contagious. Anger is contagious. Overthinking is contagious. Control is contagious. Gluttony is contagious. It's all contagious, right? Oh, well, it's the normal way, right? Well, I don't want to be normal. I want to be natural. And to be natural, you have to connect to nature. So fire, water, air, and earth, that's nature. So when I get you out here to the ocean over here, and you stare at the ocean and you conjure up a whale or some dolphins, you'll go, whoa, this is awesome. My spirit is talking to me. We're on, And it doesn't only happen in LA. Dude, you might have the language that you take all of your spiritual wisdom and you change Memphis. What's the spirituality and significance of Memphis? In the pyramid, you're like, come on, look at that. And you should be talking about that and sharing that, because Memphis is powerful in history, and you're revitalizing Memphis. You're waking it up. I honor you for doing that, It's brilliant, So is that enough?
Thank you, bro. That's beautiful, my friend. In closing, Brian and I have been talking off and on about this place we call the zone. I've mentioned to Brian, I often use this analogy when I play music and I'm playing bass. First 4 or 5 songs, I'm mixing, I'm moving lights, getting everything right, because I do sound as well as play and sing. And when I feel I'm done, I put the iPad down on the drum riser, I take my shoes off, and I fall inside, and I go somewhere. I don't know where I go. And we call this the zone. Some of my band members, we call it digging in. Some of us, we call it making a sandwich. The point is, we're getting into this place that it's beyond thinking, that something else takes over. So many years ago, quite a few years ago, probably 10 years ago, I wrote this blog called The Zone. Brian had talked about often tonight. Live in love. Love is the answer to all of the problems. So what is one way we live in love? When you get into the zone, like Brian said, when you cut the grass, you don't just cut the grass because it's a chore. You cut the grass because you have the health and the ability and to take care of your property. So you do this with a meditation, and you find the zone in whatever it is you're doing. So here's my blog called In the Zone. Everyone knows me. I'm huge on definitions. It takes the argument out. You can't argue with the definition. It's the collective agreement of how we use words to describe a reality. The definition of zone: an area or region set apart from its surroundings by some characteristics. It seems that no matter how that word's used, everyone's looking for a way to get into the zone and stay there. Even Rod Serling recognized the magic of it and created some of his most amazing stories around it. But what is it really? Here is my question. What makes this place, the zone, so special? It is no coincidence that the uprights on a football field are called the goal, and that they are located in the end zone. The end zone. Football players lift weights, eat right, and do what they get off the couch. They do whatever it takes to reach that place because that's where the magic happens. And if you watch someone who is serious about their billiard playing, you will notice they are very quiet when they are playing the game. They are so involved with the process that they don't gloat when they make a brilliant shot. For doing that would only take them out of the zone, and they know it. Race car, you go, Brian. Race car drivers know that they must shift into the zone where they're able to hear their own intuition tell them how to weave in, out, and around their competitors so they can cross the finish line goal before anyone else. And the best do it with such precision that they become one with the car they are driving. All musicians who have ever played live know that the zones where the creative spirit spontaneously and simultaneously brings a musical idea through without rehearsal. As a musician, I can tell you that's where we try to get is there. So we can play from that space all night long. Even though everyone's playing their own instrument, we somehow become the collective instrument of a higher idea. No one's trying to make things fit. But when we all fall into the zone, our audience notices a tightness and feels a power in the performance. That's where the magic happens. If you look closely at dancers who are in the zone, either on stage or in a club, they seem to be like children at play, swirling and twirling with their eyes closed, lost in a world where nothing affects them. Someone taking a test in school or college isn't necessarily trying to remember what they have studied. They are looking for the zone where information comes to them effortlessly. Those who consider themselves stars in the world of pornography pride themselves on being able to plunge into a sexual zone on cue. Matter of fact, most people, whether pros or amateurs, use the tool of dirty talk to throw themselves even deeper into a state of arousal, because that's where the magic happens. Every religion references the zone, whether they call it nirvana, higher self, or by one of God's many names. I am here to tell you that it does not matter what you call it. It's all the same zone. Let me assure you that mystics, monks, and others who've dedicated their lives to a spiritual discipline, none of them have the monopoly on the zone. They just know what to do and how to do it. It's a zone.
And so that zone to me is the feeling, the heart. Have you ever heard of heart math?
No, enlighten me, sir.
Yeah, no, you type in heart math.
Okay.
It's a group, it's an organization of people that have realized, the scientists have realized that the brain puts out so much energy connects so far with electromagnetics. You know, we talked about the 5 senses. Well, there's really like 15 or 14 senses. And so they use the sensors to measure the energy coming off the heart, and they realize that the heart has like 20 times more ability to connect to other people than the brain does. And we're taught, you are what you think, you are what you think, you are what you think. And you're also told with this enlightenment stuff that you have to manifest. You have to manifest stuff. And then it comes from thinking, and you imagine it, that it's all about the thinking. No, it's the feeling. It's a connection to feeling. Now, the input of the beginning is the thinking. You know, there's body, mind, spirit. And then it's like a triangle. It doesn't just stop body, mind, spirit. It actually comes back around. It's holy. It's connected. So see that trinity or that triangle as body, mind, spirit, then back to body, back to mind, back to spirit. And it doesn't just go that way. It goes the other way. You know, it goes body, spirit, mind. And so there's a two-way pathway. And so the body talks to the mind and the spirit. The mind and the spirit talk, you know, the mind talks to the body and the mind, and, you know, they all talk to each other, right? And so there's a conscious collaboration within you. So when we say religion, it's re-legion, reconnect, re-stitch, re-legion, reconnect, right? The reconnecting of body, mind, spirit, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit is reconnecting of all those. So when we get whole, we're in holy, we're that. So all this conscious New Age talk about manifesting from thinking only is leaving out the feeling, the love. And when you play bass, when you ride the race car, when you really get connected, spirit comes through. Inspiration in spirit comes through. And you can feel it. And you can slow down time in those moments. Time doesn't even exist because you're so present in the moment. So check it out. If you want to live longer, start living your purpose, because time will slow down and a year will feel so amazing, you know, because you're able to slow down time. You will enjoy every bite. You will enjoy every breath. You'll connect, you know. If you're just sitting there in drudgery and staying in the same old pattern of ignorance, greed, fear, patterns of old, and the powers of old are in charge of you, you'll die a short life with one of their diseases and one of their chemicals they're feeding you. And like right now, look this one up. One of the leading causes of death is overprescription of drugs. Another one is being too fat, right? All the chemical companies, all greed, right? And then the advertising just saying you need this, you know? And then now we can get instant pizza or Chinese food just right now on our phone, bang, and it'll be delivered, right? And Venmo, oh, I can send and pay for it, fantastic, right? It's so easy. Well, get off your butt and take a walk, right? Or go plant a garden. And once you connect to the garden, you plant some tomatoes inside for the winter and get a little LED light and start, once you connect to the dirt and the soil and the little critters in there and realize that there's a whole microbiome inside the plant's soil, you'll have a respect for soil. You'll have a respect for water and sunshine. Water and sunshine meeting together with the elements of the earth and the soil. Create a plant. Guess where protein comes from? The plant, right? The sunshine. You're eating sunshine, right? So these animals that are all high protein, you know, I need more protein, you know. Well, all those animals don't eat other animals. Cows don't eat other animals. They eat grass. They're eating sunshine, and that turns to protein. So sunshine and water and air equals the protein, right? And so, you know, you start respecting nature, you start respecting yourself, you raise your frequency, you have organic tomatoes inside in the middle of winter and some basil, and you make a tomato basil sandwich with some, yeah, it'd be fantastic. You should do that, you know? And that'll get you over your seasonal depression disorder, you know? It'll also give you something to tend to. I have a nephew a couple nephews that have started loving plants, and it's a great way. It's a starting to love everything. You love the plants and you nurture the plant. You see it grow, then you can do it with an animal. Then you can do it with a child, and then you can do it with humanity and yourself. You know, and when you start loving nature, it all comes back around. It's whole. You know, so body, mind, spirit. It's all. Listen to your spirit, and that's the hard one, because most people never get there. They just fluff over and stay with the mind and stay with the body, and they're so depressed that they just eat their way into depression and that horrible negative energy. So get out of it. So here's what I challenge you and I both to do. Here's what I challenge you both to do. All right, if you're going to watch TV for the next 60 days, right? And a commercial comes on. You just rewarded yourself with like 8 minutes of watching TV until there's a commercial. There's like 3 commercials, 5 commercials, 6 commercials that go on. So it's like 3 minutes, right? 3 minutes of commercial break that's going to slam at you. During those 3 minutes, I challenge you and I both, if you ever watch TV, to get off your butt and do some push-ups for 3 minutes. Do some sit-ups for 3 minutes. Do some jumping jacks for 3 minutes. Or find the highest quality food items that has a frequency that vibrates higher, that isn't full of chemicals. Read the package and see if there's chemicals on it. Get the one with the less chemicals. And then let's put that in and see how it makes us feel. Let's take walks every day. Sunshine, fresh air. And if you're not getting enough water, take a bath instead of a shower. And you feel that water, put some Epsom salts in there, But let's challenge ourselves to raise our frequency physically, and then let's do the same thing. Challenge yourself mentally to read some. Every day, I challenge you to read 5 pages. Let's just say 5 pages in any book. And here's what I do. I'm a weirdo. I don't read a book from cover to cover. I've got like 30 books all the time. And they're all crazy bookmarked and little stickers all over them. And my spirit will say, go grab a book. And my spirit will go grab a book, and I'll randomly open it to page 72. And I'll go halfway down to paragraph 3, sentence number 2, and there's exactly what I'm thinking of. It's like my spirit just went through the Rolodex and found exactly what I needed, and it just comes to me. So I've got such a good collection. It's like having a good collection of music, and every song is great. My collection of books are so powerful and inspiring that every paragraph is fantastic and inspiring, and my spirit knows how to go send me the right information. And then I read that information, and here's the challenge you and I need to make. Then share the wisdom you have from what you gained, that 5 pages. And you do your own song, your own spin on that, and share the wisdom from that. And then let's tune up our bodies, let's tune up our mind, and let's listen to our spirit. Because I know right now your spirit would not be doing what it's doing unless it's got a purpose. Your spirit knows what it's doing and why it's doing it, And I really, really want your success to help millions of people. And millions is not crazy. There's like 7 or 8 billion people. There's 1 million people right around Memphis that need your help. Just in Memphis, just in Tennessee, that need your help. And all we have to do is get you speaking their language and get them on your frequency, and they win. And evolution, of humanity, we get to evolve.
I love talking with you, bro, about evolving, and I think every time I have the opportunity to hang out with you, I do evolve. Yeah. You inspire me. You remind me of places about myself I often forget, and you are that gentle reminder. So thank you, bro. Let's do this more often. You and I can plan to come see each other. I'll come see you in Cali, and maybe next year or so, you can head out to Memphis, hang out with me for a while. Either way, let's just meet in the middle somewhere, bro.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get me some serious grubbage. I've been eating these chips, and it's not.
All right, but
Yeah.
but do the high quality. If you can make a choice to high frequency, feel the frequency, and you can feel it. You don't have to think the frequency. Just just scan and feel the frequency. And at some point you might start shifting. Instead of a bag of potato chips, it might be celery. Might be.
I do that as well. I get my collection of celery with some light nature dip. Love broccoli. I have carrots. I do all that stuff as well.
Yeah, but start finding what works for you. We're all weird chemistry sets, and what works for you doesn't me. I mean, you might just be the frequency you need is barbecue, every day, or pasta every day. But some people get sloppy on that. And when I see a body that's sloppy, I see that their mind is also sloppy and their spirit's also sloppy. They're ignoring their body, they're ignoring their mind, they're ignoring their spirit. So what I'm asking is, how tuned up can we be? And I plan to live for a long time. And in order to do that, I need to tune my habits even better and tune my being even better, my body. Because I'm a car that's got 56,000 miles on it, and I wanted to go to 100,000, or whatever it is.
Brian, I'm on your tail, bro. I'm turning 56 the last day of this month, so I'm right there with you. Brian, thank you. Let's do this again, everyone. I'm going to drop the link again, as I have all night, though Brian didn't know, to www.newways.com. New Ways, that's KNEW Ways, WAYS. www.newways.com. Brian, closing statement.
I love you.
Same here.
I love myself, but not with an egotistical thing of comparison, like I'm better than you. But if you hate yourself, you hate everybody and everything, and you're going to take advantage. You're going to, like Jeff Bezos, I don't think likes himself. If you deep down inside, he's probably got childhood trauma and some other weird shit going on, right? And some of these billionaires that same way. We have to pray that they get love in their lives, that love shows up in such a big way that they go, whoa, I can be Batman. I can change society. We can robotize things and give all the money away because money's useless anyway. It's just an imaginary thing, We can feed and house and clothe people, and they don't need to be stuck in this system of drudgery. We can create a whole new system that works for all,
And I can be the one to do that. No one has ever done such a thing, but my resources are infinite, and I can go down in history. Hell, if you need an ego stroke, I'll give you an ego stroke. I'll write a book about how you did it and how kind you were with your billions of dollars and you saved the world. If you need an ego stroke, but yeah, man, it's like, they need love. They need to go out on a date, whatever.
Well, I just hope their grandkids or their kids or their wife or girlfriend shows up and says, I can see you, and let's break your childhood patterns of ignorance, greed, fears, and these patterns of old, this guilt you have, this anger you have, this feeling of lack or whatever it is, and helps them move through those patterns. And then let's see the same things in ourselves. See where your frequency is off, where your pattern is off. Analyze yourself and work through them. I'm doing a course right now with a group called Mind Valley. And there's a woman named Marissa Peer. And I'm paying for her to mentor me in getting some of my patterns removed. And she's not doing it. I'm doing it. I do all the work. She's just giving simple little nudging advice on what to do. And anybody can do that, And so we've got YouTube now. We have courses for free. I mean, look up Marissa Peer. It's not that she's just working for me right now. And look up Mind Valley. Look up some of these people like Bruce Lipton or Greg Braden. Look up Gaia TV. I mean, there's so many sources of amazing information. that instead of turning on the TV and watching what they're programming you that has a commercial every 3 seconds, you can be watching some high quality thing that challenges you to be better. You can be watching Center of Light every night and feeling good and changing your frequency and raising your frequency and then taking all that and helping others. So that's what I challenge everybody to do. I'm going to do sit-ups and push-ups and jumping jacks more often. I got a jump rope over here. I'm going to get that out. And every day I'll start doing those. And right now I got a little flabby around the stomach. You know, I'm going to get rid of flabby. I'm going to raise my frequency. I'm going to do a fast next week. I'm not going to eat at all for 8 days. I'm going to do a fast and clear some toxins that are in me, that are in my lymph nodes. And I might look skinny to some people, but here's what I'm going to do is get rid of toxins. So when I do eat, everything's going to fill in the right way. It's not going to be like everything's just clouded up. I'm going to be able to absorb better nutrients when I start eating again and get rid of toxins. And so my health will improve. I mean, look up fasting. If you do even intermittent fasting, which is choosing that after a certain time, could be midnight, could be 10 o'clock, could be 9 o'clock, whatever time you choose, until 6 in the morning, 9 in the morning. What happens is after a while you go nine hours, then you go 12 hours without eating, right? Okay, well, if I'm going to sleep 10 hours, I go 10 hours without eating. Well, extend it, cut it off 2 hours before when you wake up. Don't immediately go eat stuff. And then when you do eat stuff, limit what you eat. And what happens is when your stomach is less full, your brain works better, your feelings work better. When you're fasting, so connected to spirit, you can feel what's going on. And you're tuned in, and that's what these autistic kids are. They have better senses, And we're dumbing them down with drugs and whatever else and labeling them and shutting them down. They shouldn't be going to regular school. None of our kids should be going to regular school. Our kids should be going to extraordinary school. Whatever you choose to do, you should be doing that. And spending the 40 hours a week passionately about everything you're in love with. In the process, you'll learn everything else. Because you will need to learn how to read and write. So you'll learn how to do that, and you'll learn math, okay? Because music is math or whatever, Science, you're passionate about science, and you'll learn, and at some point you dig into it, So following your passion, I know very well I was a straight A student at anything I was passionate about, and I got the lowest C possible for anything I didn't care about. And that's who I was, So anyway, find what you're passionate about and be extraordinary, Yeah.
Great advice, because when you do what you love, if you consider God to be love itself, when you do what you love, that's called alignment. You're in alignment simply because I'm into this thing. I'm in. God lives in. In is the way out. And Brian, I'm going to find my way out. Thank you, my dear, beautiful friend. Let's you and I connect soon about me coming out to California. Yeah.
World peace through self-peace. World love through self-love. World, whatever you want to fix in the world, fix it at yourself.
Fix it yourself. Yeah. Everyone, Brian D. Hardin, Keith Anthony Blanchard here. Peace, my dear friend.
All right.
I'm going to be seeing you soon. Enjoy my time with Brian. We're going to do this more often. Brian and I have been doing this about every other month or so. I enjoy my time. I could have went out tonight. It's Saturday. I don't get phone calls. People think because Keith's in the public eye, people don't call me. And I sit here and I do this because this is my passion. And talking with Brian, sharing with you, being with you, all of us being in the same heart space together. I just feel that connectivity. And I feel larger than anything I've ever known. There's nothing greater than I want for myself. Center of Light Radio. Yo. Keith Anthony Blanchard here. You are loved beyond measure. Take that in. Let me say that again. You are loved beyond measure. It is my pleasure to play in a treasure trove with you.